A very good evening to all the amazing folks who have joined us today. I am Aniket Kumar Sinha, the Google Developer Student Club lead at BKBIT.
And I am Pooja Kera, the technical lead at Google Developer Student Club's IGDSCWOW. And we warmly welcome you all to the second day of GDSC Wonder of Wonders, aka GDSC WOW.
GDSC WOW is a 3 days long virtual event comprising of speaker sessions, live coding, open source project webinars covering various topics of latest technologies, and a fun treasure hunt game. For budding developers and tech enthusiasts, GDSC WOW is not just an amalgamation of workshops and fun. It is the place where imagination meets the technology of tomorrow. Here's a question for our audience. On a scale of 1 to 5, how much did you enjoy the workshops that were conducted yesterday? Put your responses in the chats now and keep them coming.
I'm looking for the responses in the chat. On a scale of 1 to 5, how much did you love the workshops that were conducted yesterday? Okay, we have 10. Keep them coming, folks. Love to see your responses. That's amazing. That's amazing. We have so many fives in the chat and some numbers way above that as well. So, special thanks to our day one speakers, Miss Nikita Gandhi, Mr. Preetham Sahu, Miss Charu Choda, Miss Anuradha Kumari, and Miss Usha Ringaraju for making it an enriching and exciting experience for students from all over the country.
So, folks, yesterday you learned about the 101s of various technologies. I'm pretty sure one of the technologies has definitely caught your attention. So, here's the second question of the day for you. Which technology do you think you will be working in the near future? Is it Flutter or is it Cloud or is it UI UX or is it ML AI or web? Put your response in the chat now.
Okay, so reiterating on that question, which technology interests you the most? Is it Flutter? Is it web? Is it UI UX? Is it MLAI? Is it cloud? Okay, we have a lot of cloud fans in the chat. I'm pretty sure that's because of 30 days GCP. I hope all of you received your swags by now. So we have AI ML, we have Flutter, we have ML again, AI again. Oh, Rishabh says all. That's nice.
Okay, so Pooja, which technology excites you the most?
I think UI UX excites me the most. However, I work with
That's awesome.
ML and web as well. So that's something about me. And I can see a lot of people doing cloud. So
Yeah.
I had to study it anyway because like it's now a subject in my university. You know how it is. So folks, now you all must be wondering what we have in store for you today. Today, you will know where to use the skills you have in all of these technologies, build your career in it, and live your life doing exactly what you enjoyed. Sounds amazing, doesn't it? Okay, so continuing the tradition of giving surprises at JDSC WOW, we are also here with a treasure hunt for you all. I request you all to pay attention because I'm going to iterate on the rules and regulations for the event. So all you need to do is pay attention throughout the day and you'll get a chance to win amazing goodies in the end. So we're now sharing a Google form with you all where you have to fill out your details and access the password protected PDF which will be provided in today's first session. Reiterating again, it will be provided in today's first session. There will be a total of 5 PDFs that you have to unlock. Clues for the same will be provided in the sessions throughout today. So make sure you are attending all of them. Some rules that you have to keep in mind include the clue identification and the password should be entered within the duration of the session. If the answer of the clue is entered before the time the clue is mentioned, you will not be eligible for any prizes. You need to submit the clues in the respective session itself. And we won't be accepting any duplicate entries, so make sure you are getting the right answer in one go. To be eligible for the treasure hunt goodies, you need to register on our portal gdscwow.tech. In case you haven't done that, please do so before attempting the treasure hunt.
All the best, Fox, for the treasure hunt. And before we formally begin with the proceedings of the day, on behalf of the entire GDSC WOW team, I would like to humbly thank our title sponsor, Geeks for Geeks. Geeks for Geeks is the world's most trusted interview preparation portal for tech aspirants. Geeks for Geeks have the biggest repository of tech content, and their daily traffic is 5 million. From delivering top notch content from the writers as well as valuable contributions from the students, and to imparting education via online courses, Geeks for Geeks plays a pivotal role in providing access education to the budding coders of India. I would also like to thank our platinum sponsors, Mentro and AlgoZenith. Mentro brings professional mentorship from people working in companies like Google, Microsoft, Amazon, Geo, Flipkart, Gojek, Cred, and more at a personalized one-on-one level for you. AlgoZenith is a platform that empowers students to learn algorithmic problem solving and developmental skills to give their career a head start. Extending our gratitude to our gold sponsor, Agora, and silver sponsors, Virtual Cyber Labs, Fluxus, Sketch, and Taskade for supporting our endeavors and helping us to bringing this event to life. And without any further ado, let's jump to the first aspect of today. Is it me or you also think that mobile applications have become indispensable now? They're like food and water, but for our smartphones. Have to set a timetable reminder, there is an app. Have to track habits, there is an app. Have to edit beautiful pictures, there is an app. And the list can go on and on.
Rightly said, Aniket. Now, what if I tell you there is an amazing technology that can help you build the same application for Android, iOS, web, and even desktop? Can the lovely audience here guess which technology am I talking about? A hint for you guys, its mascot is a very cute and fluffy bluebird. Okay, we got Android Studio. I'll repeat the hint again. So its mascot is a very cute and fluffy bluebird. It's amazingly cute. Okay, okay.
Now getting the right responses.
Yes, Aniket, we have a pretty intelligent audience amongst us. So, yes,
Indeed.
folks, we are talking about Flutter, a UI framework for building beautiful cross platform applications. And today, we have Mr. Deven Joshi with us, who is going to walk you through the what, why, and how of careers and opportunities in Flutter. 10 on 10 recommended to keep a notepad with you because this talk is going to be full of learnings and pro tips that you cannot find elsewhere.
Devane is an avid developer who loves all things mobile. Tinkering with Flutter since his early days, he started out with writing content to make Flutter even easier to understand and experiment with. Having worked with multiple startups and companies worldwide, he's experienced with multiple use cases of the platform. He has been actively involved in the Flutter community and often speaks about his own experiments in Flutter. When not programming, you might find him playing chess or reading something new. He is the Google developer expert for a Flutter, a freelancer, a technical content writer, and a speaker. Over to you, Devane. Okay, so
Sorry for the
Devane
technical
is
fault,
joining soon.
folks. Yes. In the meantime, yeah, in the meantime, can we have a GDSC wow in the chat?
Or
GDSC
hashtag
wow in the chat
GetSetWoW.
right now. Hashtag GetSetWoW, GDSC wow opens that. Okay, Aniket says hashtag GetSetWoW. I say GDSC wow OP. Let's see who gets more who gets more attention over here. So, folks, if I said GDSC wow OP, Aniket said GetSetWoW. Put it in the chat, whichever you like. Okay, I clearly am winning, Aniket. It's GDSC
Yeah,
WOW
you
with
are
you.
winning.
Okay, I see Get Set WOW as well. So there are people supporting you as well.
Yeah, like more support. I need more.
No, obviously I need more support. Don't listen to this guy.
Okay,
GDSC
get
WOW
set. Wow.
people. Yeah, okay, okay. We have it in capitals as well. That's nice. That's really
Yeah,
nice to see that people are really listening to us.
we have
JDSC
Ultra
WOW.
OP too.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to day two. Yesterday, Nikita talked about the roadmap to actually becoming a
And we're back again. Sorry for the
Okay,
small technical
so
fault.
I
It just
can
happens.
clearly see that GetSetWoW is there a lot, and I won.
Yeah. I love the friendly banter that we have over here. So that's like really amazing, and I'm sure the audience is also really excited. So yeah, everybody is asking for the
Yeah,
password. I'll just like reiterate upon it again. So the password is going to be provided to you during the first session. The first session we have is of Flutter. So when the Flutter session will commence, then you will get a clue on the screen. It will be highlighted on the screen by our team, and that's when you have to access the PDF. So buckle up, because maybe you might miss it. So don't eat Maggie on your side. Focus on the sessions. Yeah. Um, how many of you are going to be participating in the treasure hunt today? Put a yes in the chat.
I guess all.
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't love goodies, right?
Correct. And the treasure hunt game is like awesome.
I wanted to play as well, but then you dragged me into this. So that's the thing. Um,
We are getting so many yes, like everyone is interested in this.
Definitely. I think I just switched my face for 1 second and I saw 100 yeses coming in.
yesterday, Nikita
Correct,
talked
correct.
about the roadmap to actually becoming a Flutter developer. Today, we talk about what becoming job ready looks like. This entails talking about what the state Flutter is in today, the history of it, what the job situation in Flutter is, and how you can crack an interview. So this is a topic I've been getting for quite some time, because ultimately you want to transition from just learning about something to actually doing it, maybe as a job or maybe as something, and from both sides. Because I've been seeing companies asking me like, what should we ask a candidate, and I've also seen candidates asking what can be asked in an interview. But the question goes deeper than just having an interview. The question really goes down to what should you really know? And since Flutter is relatively young, there's no clear-cut answer. So we did a few Twitter spaces on it before. We've done quite a lot of stuff on it before, but there's obviously no clear-cut answer to this. And today, I kind of wanted you to get a glimpse into what I have seen, I have experienced, and what becoming job ready, maybe my opinion, like it's slightly opinionated, but at the same time, what becoming job ready to me looks like for Flutter. So we're going to go down to multiple levels. We're going to see every aspect of it. But before that, here's a bit about me. So I am a Google developer expert for Flutter, and my current position is as a Flutter engineer at Stream, where we build chat and feeds SDKs. And I've been working there with Flutter for 1.5 years. Before that, I've done quite a bit of things. I do technical writing. I've been in the Flutter community itself for quite a long time. I started out in 2017, 2018, quite early on, maybe in alpha. And since then, I've been doing a lot of writing. I've been doing like some speaking here and there. And honestly, from the early days, it's been quite fun. I've done quite a lot of positions in companies, big and small, and that kind of gives you more perspective to speak about all of this. So I kind of wanted to give you like an overarching view. First of all, what does first of all, what does Flutter look like historically, and where are we today? After that, what do you need to do? And the third kind of aspect I want to talk about was how to go on from there. So first of all, let's start with okay, the evolution of Flutter. So understanding history, like I mean, Understanding how Flutter got to this state helps us predict this better. So you kind of need to understand that Flutter was relatively recent, but not that recent. Flutter was it kind of launched in 2017, 2018, really, like to a larger scale. 1.0 was, I think, in December of 2018. And since then it's exploded. At different levels of maturity, you see every framework um, having different kinds of jobs. So small companies might have jobs earlier, larger companies might have jobs later. And this is expected, this is normal. So don't freak out if something has, some companies have jobs, some companies don't. That's completely normal. And as a framework matures, as a framework evolves, there's different kind of positions. Understanding this kind of evolution will help us understand what are we really looking to get out of this. What is the best version to apply, how to tackle this problem of being job ready, or what kind of jobs should you really be ready for. That's the question we are trying to solve. So before that, maybe look at this. This is a very recent article on Stack Overflow, which basically said this was in a way a declaration saying Flutter is now the most popular cross-platform mobile SDK. So, and this was not, I mean, if you've been in the Flutter community recently, this would not be a very big surprise. But this was at no points obvious. And seeing this, seeing Flutter in this kind of light is amazing for people who've been there for 4 or 5 years now. So on the graph to the right, Stack Overflow kind of mentioned a graph. How has Flutter evolved versus React Native? Like in terms of questions on Stack Overflow, not exactly the most groundbreaking metric, but a metric nonetheless. You have to quantify it in one way or the other. So you can see that, around 2017, you see some interest, but it kind of plateaus, right? It kind of goes slowly. And then it just rises up. Because initially there was, let's say, a strong group of initial believers who laid a lot of the foundation for the Flutter framework, who created the first packages, who added the first tooling. And then you see this immense interest, like maybe even slightly before 1.0, you see this immense interest. And after 1.0, it absolutely explodes. You actually see this. I don't know if it's a mathematical law of some sort, but at the same time, you see these kinds of things in a lot of places. As an example, if you see the M1 chips versus the Intel chips, you see this similar kind of graph where Intel goes ahead earlier, but then later on, there's an exponential rise in computing power. The point here is, just because it's mature, or rather, just before it's launched earlier, does not defeat. The thing that matters more is the proposition. The thing that matters more is what are the framework's principles? Why is Flutter better than anything else? And when I say better, I'm not trying to diss any other framework. React Native is a solid framework as a whole. It's a mature framework, and it's a framework that a lot of people use. It's not a bad framework. It's just the fact that you kind of have to see how does it compare to Flutter. And the point is, even if initially there was slight plateauing, then you see this immense interest with a lot of Google engineers joining in, a lot of the community joining in. There being a very solid, very non-hostile community around Flutter, everybody willing to help out, and you see this tremendous growth in Flutter today. So you have this really nice trend, and it's still growing. We still see new people. The point of all of this is that there is continuous adoption in smaller companies and large, and we kind of want to track how has Flutter grown and where do Flutter jobs lie today. The key thing to understand is where should we target first. So let's go to the next slide, which really says what is the current scenario of Flutter jobs. So here are the nuances. Understand the nuances between small companies and large ones. If I'm a small startup, if I'm a small company, it's much easier for me to just pick a new modern framework and stick with it, develop my entire app in it, or develop my entire platform on it and be done with it. Whereas if I'm a larger company, if you look at larger companies, they usually have outdated legacy frameworks. They usually have a lot of stuff that newcomers don't want to work with, but that's worked for them. And converting that to something else is a very risky proposition. It's a very time consuming proposition. So what happens now is startups initially, when there's a new framework, when there's an exciting new framework which is really changing a lot of things, startups pick it up first. And especially in India, you see an insane amount of startups really taking up all of this load, where they really want to develop it with Flutter. Nobody's convincing them. The idea of consolidating a lot of Android and iOS teams into one Flutter team is very, very amazing for them, because they don't have to maintain multiple code bases. They don't have to do a lot of stuff. And if you've seen any Flutter talk before this, it definitely talks about how Flutter really manages all of this stuff, how you can manage multiple code bases, how it allows you to consolidate everything into one team. I have uh, I have worked with a lot of teams to ensure that they migrated well to like, where they were combining these teams into one, and they migrated very quickly. They adapted very quickly to this new kind of Flutter scenario. So that's been great. So the point is, startups and medium-sized companies have an insane number of jobs right now. The current scenario is startups and medium-sized companies, they're looking to do more and more with Flutter. So startups, almost a lot of them are really, really pushing for Flutter. In medium-sized companies, when I say medium, they're quite large, but like in terms of absolute scale, let's call them medium-sized. They're at least trying to do something with Flutter. They at least have one side project or something that they are doing otherwise, that they definitely try it. They want to try it out. And I have, while I can't name the companies, there have been some companies which have reached out to me and a few other GDs, a few other Googlers, who definitely want to try out more with Flutter, just maybe one app, two apps, and just try it out how it works for them. So just to give you more context on this, you have, these are the basic companies. These are some companies that are working with Flutter currently, and obviously, quite a lot of them. So one of them is one I work for called Stream. There's VGV, who's a very well-known Flutter development company. Like they're quite well-known in the community as a whole. Amazon recently launched an SDK where they were hiring Flutter engineers. There was even Spotify. Spotify was doing an app with Flutter. Toyota recently really came into the game. I think even Ubuntu's launcher is now written with Flutter. There's so much stuff that's happening, and Alibaba has been a very, very old supporter of like Flutter as a whole, and they've done. I think they are probably the largest. They have the apps with the largest scale written in Flutter. So point is, there's more and more of these behemoths that are coming into the Flutter community as a whole, and it is helpful to understand that even these larger companies are now coming in. And also, there's Google Pay. Google Pay is now written in Flutter. They migrated millions of lines of code to Flutter for Google Pay, and that was, to me, a masterstroke, because what happened effectively there is Google effectively demonstrated you can build a very large apps which billions of people use, and you can do it in Flutter. And today, whatever, like, if you're using Google Pay in India, that's a Flutter app. So it's an amazing feat, and that was one of the best demonstrations that Flutter is ready for prime time in terms of companies, in terms of opportunities. So these are companies. There's obviously more than them who are doing it. I can't display all the logos here, but these are just this was just to give you an idea of which companies are using it, and like, just to really show you that even large companies are now trying to do some things in Flutter, and with the current track record, they're going to do a lot more effectively. So please check these out, and like, if you want, like, they all have job roles open at some point or the other. So maybe try your luck out as well once you feel you're at that level. So this is probably maybe the main thing you're here for. What do I do? Like, to have a job, you need skill. The question is, there's so many resources, and this is not just in Flutter, right? This is in Android, this is in basically anything you do. How do I skill up? How do I learn the necessary skills required, and what do I learn? Because there's so much information. Google documentation will point you one way, something else will point to the other way, and this will be a very complicated thing overall, because I mean, you have a limited amount of time, and maybe a lot of you are students, so you can't devote everything. Maybe you're doing internships, maybe you're doing jobs, and if you're looking for a Flutter job later on, you need to know how to crack that interview. Because if it's just the basic questions, it's not like most people are going to have the same answers as you. You need to distinguish yourself. So first of all, how to skill up, right? That's the question we want to answer. So these are the main things at least I can think of. Obviously, different people have different opinions. Like, that's completely fine. This is mine. So there are different kinds of positions at companies, and I don't want to give you a direct thing that advanced means senior, or beginner means junior, or an intern. I don't want to do that, because right now it is the Flutter job market is very nascent, relatively, not very, but like still quite nascent. So senior positions, junior positions, or like intermediate, they don't mean quite a lot as much as they do in other frameworks or other fields. So don't worry about anything. What I really wanted to point out is just keep kind of 3 levels for this in your head. So when you're really beginning, first of all, learn Dart, right? You need to know Dart. There's no excuse around it. You need to know all the concepts. You need to know streams, and you need to know futures, and you need to do all of that. So Dart basics are a critical foundation element that you need to have. After that, Flutter UI. Flutter UI is quite different. Like it's a Flutter UI itself is I mean, it's a declarative layout, and it's quite different from Android and iOS and stuff like that. So you need to have a very good understanding of how to build Flutter UI. And to me personally, it was quite hard to adapt, because I came from a native Android background initially, and it was quite difficult to adapt, that kind of XML kind of layout at that time to Flutter UI. I had just never done it before. So building Flutter UI, once you kind of get it into muscle memory, it is an amazing thing, because you can crank out amazing layouts, amazing things that look staggering. I do a lot of experiments with it on the background. You can see like generative art I do with it, that kind of stuff. You can see you can build amazing things within hours, not even days. So please get a very good handle on building Flutter UI. And this includes, so first of all, don't reinvent the wheel, please. There are a lot of widgets that are already built. You might count that as some cognitive overhead, but that's fine. If you learn the inbuilt widgets that come with Flutter, you will get to speed in no time. You can do a lot of complex layouts. Later on, if you need some massive amounts of customization, it's fine. Like you can invent, then you can invent a new kind of wheel if you want. But with Flutter UI, you need to have a very good grip on it. After that, very good Flutter concepts. And this is a question that's asked everywhere. What is a stateful widget? What is a stateless widget? And you might be surprised as to how much nuance there is to this question. But regardless of that, you need to know these basic concepts. Like, you might just say, okay, and you might just say this stateful widget refreshes, so stateless doesn't. But there's a whole lot more nuance to that. And you need to networking. And networking, to be honest, could be even an advanced concept, because there's so many things that you could do in terms of networking. But the thing is, you need to use APIs one way or the other. You need to use APIs to even fetch basic stuff. So networking, at least on an HTTP sense, it needs to be there. As a beginner, you need to know it. So there's some other basic Flutter concepts. I can't enumerate all of them, but at the same time, these are some of them. And these concepts, let's say native networking and stuff like that, you need to know. It's fine if you don't go into databases, but still go into some basic things like shared preferences, like just basic values, something like that. So these 3 things you need to know as a beginner, and you need to perfect them. Everything else, there's some amount of this more, that less. That's fine. But these concepts you absolutely need to know. That's step 1. Once you're done with all of this, you can build pretty good apps. I mean, you could do pretty much small experiments, even small to medium sized apps you could do with all of this. But as an intermediate developer, when you want to work with a company, you need to know state management. State management is the process where you actually manage data across the app, where you have an expansive widget tree and you need to do a lot of stuff. So state management, you need to know not everything, but at the very least common things like provider, inherit, like as in you need to know block, stuff like that. Like whatever you see as important to that. State management is definitely an asked question in interviews. Please prepare for that. Theming is important, because most large apps need to have some kind of theming. They need to have colors that they pass down. You can't add a color every time. You can't define colors every time. You can't define text styles every time. You can't do that. So theming is a core component of doing larger scale apps, just to save your time. But all major apps do it without any exception. Advanced navigation. Basic navigation has to be covered in beginners. That's what I meant by basic Flutter concepts. But even as an intermediate developer, you need to know more about how the navigator works, how routes work. Like, you need to have a better understanding of all of the stuff. You need to have, if you always will have some kind of complicated logic, where you're pushing a modal, you're pushing anything. How do you get back to that page and that kind of stuff? So some advanced navigation, there might be even be, you might want to observe navigation with navigation observers, stuff like that. So you need to know some things more about navigation. Also, like, some things like Navigator 2.0 or like Flow or Go Router, whatever it is that you need to know. So that is something you need to keep in mind. And testing, something which I had ignored for a long, long time personally. The thing is, testing, in a sense, in a very minute sense, is not necessary, meaning the app will run without it. But testing is necessary on a long term, because someday you're gonna end up at 1 a.m. coding the night away, and you're gonna push something that's very orry, which breaks everything. And at that point, test will save you. So on your best day, if every day is your best day, you don't need testing. But for any company, for any interview, you need to know testing. You need to know all kinds of testing. You need not just like unit integration, not widget. You need to know golden tests. You need to know everything. So that comes into play. Please keep that in mind. Testing is important. And personally, I have not followed that before. So trust me, I'm speaking from experience. When it comes to advanced stuff, it's really not more than intermediate in terms of what you need to learn. What I would say is advanced stuff is more about experience than learning. So it really deals with the underlying mechanics. As an example, you have widgets, which are the basic things that you use, but you might want to know more about how they work internally, which you have elements, render objects, and all of that kind of stuff. Companies for senior positions will always ask you about this. They will always see, can you, in some special cases, you need to write render objects, you need to do a very performant kind of app, and they will need this kind of thing. So advanced stuff is more about understanding this. It's about understanding the internal mechanics, and you need to know all of this. You need to know more about deployment. You need to know more about, do you have a CI/CD pipeline where you're pushing your deployments, where you're pushing your app through a GitHub action or something like that. So you need to know more about this continuous flow. How do I get, maybe a commit to directly go to a build and then push to something or the other. So you need to know all of this, because this is now concerned more about deploying the app on a larger scale. When you have a team of 10, 20, and 30 people, how do you work with it? That's the main thing. And the last thing I would recommend is plugin package creation. When I say this, by the way, at an intermediary stage, you should already know how to create plugins and packages. That should already be. It's not difficult. That's why. But with when you're trying to go to an advanced level of knowledge, you need to know how, like, you need to have a decent working understanding of platform channels, like all of your like even working with native code, creating a full-fledged package, what goes into it, how to structure it well, how to make it, how to have a scalable package which might last for a long time. So that's something you should definitely know. So keep these three things in mind. Don't be like, beginners, junior, intermediate, this thing. It's not like that. It's just that these stages are the ones I have seen the most. It's not necessarily my own story. It's just more about the students I've seen, or anybody I've mentored, and I've seen this kind of common pattern. And the interviews we've taken, they kind of go along this thing as well. So keep these in mind. They might be some things I have missed. Don't worry about them. Find those on your own, because I can't enumerate everything, and then maybe I'm bound to miss a thing or two at least. So this is one part of the puzzle, which is that this is the thing you should know for an interview. These things are the biggest things. The more advanced stuff you know, the easier your interview is going to be, because ultimately in an interview, you want to pitch the best. If you can show underlying knowledge in an interview, instead of just saying, okay, this is a stateful widget, this is a stateless widget, that will get you to the next round. And remember that. So this is about building your knowledge. But this is so what personally I just feel gaining knowledge is half the battle. It is 50% of the entire thing to getting to a good position, because you can get knowledge. The thing is, it is, except lethargy or like except laziness, it's not hard to get this knowledge. It's not easy, but it's trivial. It's not difficult. The second part is actually reaching out. When I say reaching out, I'm not I don't just mean reaching out. I mean like being connected to companies, being connected to people, that kind of stuff. So reaching out is a big aspect of getting a job or getting anywhere really. So there are two ways, but I recommend the first one: create your identity. Ultimately, everybody can learn about state management. Everybody, like there's it is very it's not a hard, it's not a difficult concept. Everybody can learn about everything I mentioned, and if they do it well within 6 months, maybe even lesser. So the thing is, what will differentiate you is you creating your own identity, you being known as your own person. So for that, you need to create content. When I say content, I don't necessarily just mean articles or YouTube, whatever you're good at, right? It might be small blog post, big blog post, it might be a video, it might be shorts, it might be anything. I mean, for all that matters, it could be a it could be a library, it could be a package, whatever. So content, when I say content, it's still a pretty broad definition, but like articles and videos are slightly on the easier side. And don't worry about duplication, don't copy, right? Don't just see one article and do the same thing over here. Try to have your own perspective in it. Try to, even if you write relatively the same things, look, if I'm writing about navigation, it's not going to change a lot into the other article, but you need to add your own perspective to it. Even if it's worse, that's not the point. Perspectives aren't better or worse. Perspectives are perspectives. They're what you have gone through. So don't worry too much about is this original, is this not. Just don't copy. Like, that's the main thing. If accident, sometimes it will happen that you accidentally align with an article too much. You can sort your differences out, but don't copy intentionally. But don't worry too much about, will I be just doing what that person did. That's always going to happen. That's not something different. So one thing I really want to emphasize is that being reached out to is far better than reaching out to somebody. Meaning, if and I whenever I do any kind of conference, or whenever I talk to a lot of anybody who is like talking about a job, I always say this thing, like, if, since this is more of an India conference, if I reach out to you as, let's say you're the company, if I reach out to you, you will offer me 3 lakhs. If you reach out to me, you'll offer me 30. It's that much of a difference. Where really what my point here is that there's a massive difference, and the difference here is in leverage. Who has the leverage here? If you need me, I have high standards, but if I need you, you can bargain there. So that is the main thing. If you can create your own identity, you will be reached out to. And that is the best thing that can happen, because now you have created a pipeline as to which you'll get offers instead of you going and approaching them, which is, you can do that's not a bad idea, but it's just that it's much better to be approached than to approach. And yeah, building an identity in the Flutter community is paramount to getting better opportunities. You need to connect with people. You need to have, you need to know people, because they might offer you some insight. They might offer you a position. They might refer to your company. So building a whole kind of group around you is absolutely important, and keep that in mind. Do not ever go alone. It's good to grow with other people, and keep that in mind. So building an identity is always important, and having a personal brand helps you develop yourself, regardless of how a single interview goes. An interview can go either way. Okay, even if, let's say I am let's say I think I am very experienced with Flutter, I'll go to a company tomorrow, I might be rejected, and that's fine. Things happen, right? Some things go well, some things don't. But if you keep on growing, building a personal brand, it's always going to be the case that you will grow regardless of how a single interview goes. And over a longer term, over like maybe 2 or 3 or 4 10 interviews, you will still do better, and you will still be a better person, a better developer at the end of it, regardless of how those interviews go. And that is what we want to do. We want to improve over time. We want to create identity over time. That is the critical thing over here. And kind of the thing without identity building. So there are obviously growth paths that are without identity building. I don't particularly like them. The reason is there's an immense amount of competition and it is not very objective. Meaning, uh, it's kind of that thing where people are upset that in 12th grade they had to study physics, chemistry, and math for an entry into computer science, right? As an example, you want to be a Flutter developer, but you have to do competitive coding. So that's a similar kind of principle. You have to be good at a lot of things, right? So the second point here is important. Figure out if you want to be a generalist or a specialist. If you're a generalist, as an example, Google prefers generalists, and that's true. I'm not going to lie about that. Is that Google prefers people who do really well in data structures and all of these things, and they expect people to pick up those other concepts later. If you're a specialist, maybe larger companies who prefer this approach won't approach, but medium-sized companies who want somebody to get a Flutter app built will approach you, and they might pay as well or even better. You never know. So point is, figure that out. Don't just but let's stick to one of them. Don't do competitive coding and specialization at once. You do not have the time. Because ultimately, if you're doing both and there's one person on an equal time doing just one thing, that person will win out, because you diverted your resources, they focus them. And initially, focus growth over compensation. That experience will be really important because you want to build stuff initially. That is going to be a critical thing. You want to build the whole kind of you have to build out your main kind of experience. So, and strong networks help you grow. And the last thing I really wanted to add in this talk was continuing the growth. It's fine if you have, it's fine if you have the experience, but the main thing is you haven't come this far to only come this far. That's one of my favorite quotes. So the last thing I'll tell you is experiment and keep up to date. Experiment with new things. Experiment with just keep yourselves encouraged, keep yourselves motivated by doing all sorts of weird things. I do them. Keep up to date with all the new packages, change in Flutter, etc. And be absolutely don't if you just get a job and if you're at a position, don't ever just be like, I am done here. I have good compensation. I'm great now. Don't do that, please, because ultimately somebody else who has better velocity will overtake you if that's the case. Third thing, form a very strong network of people which is mutually beneficial, and help them out as well. Don't just expect them to help you. Help them out, form a great bond, and have some friends along the way, right? You can't just code all the time. It took me that a lot of time to learn that as well, trust me. And last thing, do not ignore your mental health. Please, if you need a break, take a break. Don't worry about people overtaking you. Don't worry about anything else. Just don't burn out, because ultimately ignoring your mental health can be really disastrous over a long time. I switched to Flutter itself because I burnt out over something else, and that was really if I hadn't discovered Flutter, that would have been a very different story, right? So that's the thing. Do not ignore your mental health, regardless of anything, and that will ensure that you kind of will grow over time. And I think that's it for me for this talk. So first of all, thank you for listening. And if you want to reach out later, please find me on Twitter at this handle. And if you want to read Medium, I'm still slightly less active, but I plan to be more active soon. If you want to see my Medium, that's both of those links over there. If you have any other questions, please reach out to me. I might reply a bit late because I'm in a lot of things at the moment, but I will reach out, like, even if it takes a week or so. So feel free to DM me. My DMs are open, and I hope you got something out of this. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Devin. That was extremely insightful. I'm pretty sure our audience here are now tempted to get engaged in Flutter development. Thank you so much for sharing your invaluable thoughts. In case you folks are having questions, please mail them to contact@gdscwow.tech and we will get back to you soon.
Now you all must be eager to know the results of the Flutter quiz we conducted on day 1. The results for day 1 Flutter quiz will be announced on our social media handles by today, end of day. Please make sure you are following all our socials and be on a lookout for the announcements.
Okay, so let's now begin with the Flutter quiz for today. Click on the link sent in the chat, and the link is also present on the screen. And you will be having exactly 3 minutes to complete the quiz. And remember that the registered users will only be eligible for this quiz. So if you aren't registered yet, then go to gdscwow.tech and register yourself fast and complete the quiz. Chop chop fox for the quiz.
3 minutes, people. You just have 3 minutes, 180 seconds.
And the form link is there in the chats too.
It's there in the chats, there in the screens, anywhere you want to access it from. Aniket, what do you think? Would you be able to do a Flutter quiz in 3 minutes?
Definitely. Like with so much learnings, I can definitely complete this in 3 minutes.
Yeah, and I really loved the fact that Devane asked us to keep, take care of our mental health as well. That's extremely crucial.
It's really important, and especially in this work from home era, the mental health is really important.
I agree. I totally agree. Just have to sit in front of the laptops the entire day, and then Brooklyn Nine-Nine comes and helps you. So that's really amazing. I see a lot of Flutter fans in the chat as well. So I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure
Hashtag
that they
flutter
are
everywhere.
they are going to be the ones who take the goodies home today. For the ones who are joining just now, the quiz is there in the chat section. The quiz is there in the screen. We gave you only 3 minutes. Half of the time has, I think, almost passed now. And be quick, folks. Oh, somebody's already done. That's amazing.
Oh, awesome. Many have done, yeah.
And they
Like we
must be.
have really
Yeah.
intelligent audience, and they're so quick.
I know, right? I think the different quizzes that we were submitting in G forms since the past 2 years in our
Yeah.
online, thing, they made everybody an expert.
Correct.
Okay, it was pretty easy. We'll keep that in mind and make a harder
And we have just 1 minute left now, so hurry up, Fox.
1 minute, just 60 seconds left. Tick tick. Okay. For the folks who are done with the quiz, how did you like the Vain Source session? What was your favorite part? And if you're really liking spending the time with us, please smash that like button right now because we worked super
And you
hard.
can also spread some words about GDSC WOW on your social media, tagging us.
True. The more you like, the more this video will reach out to a lot of folks from all over the country, maybe your friends too, and then you help them indirectly. So that's win-win for everybody.
Okay. So it's ending. 10,
9,
8,
7,
6,
5,
4,
3,
2,
1.
and done. Woof. Everyone completed the quiz on time.
Were you able to complete it, audience, on time? How many were able to submit it? Write it done in the chat.
We have so many done there.
Yeah, totally. So there's this question that was coming into my mind. After Devain sir's session, how many of you are interested in a career in Flutter now? Write a me in the chat, and I would really love if you could go crazy on the number of E's in the me. Put a me in the chat if you would love to engage in a Flutter career. We see a lot of responses. Okay, that's amazing. That's amazing.
So many me's.
I see people writing in code as well. That's amazing. love to see some operators after such a long time. It's nice.
Such a big me.
Yeah, I mean, I think people are really excited about this technology. I also recently started working with it, and it's pretty fun.
Yeah, and like recently we are having that Flutter festivals too. And
Correct,
we are
correct,
having
correct.
really fun time in it.
That's amazing. I'm sure all the GDSCs around the country are doing that.
Yeah. And how many folks have done with the treasure hunt part one now?
Oh, that's a very
I
good
guess
question. I
almost
almost,
got
yeah,
the hint.
I almost forgot about it. There was treasure hunt going on as well. So were you guys able to get the answer to the first question? Pretty sure a lot of you have.
Yeah, many.
Yeah. So for again reiterating, for the hint to the second clue, you have to stay here and listen to our second session. Right. So, folks, that was it for today's Flutter section. Let us now move to one of the most popular and emerging technologies of the day, cloud computing. Here's a quick summary of what cloud computing is. Cloud computing is the delivery of computing services, which includes servers, storage, databases, networking, software, analytics, and intelligence over the internet, also known as the cloud, to offer faster innovation, flexible resources, and economies of scale. You typically pay only for the cloud services you use, helping lower your operating costs, run your infrastructure more efficiently, and scale as your business needs change.
And to satisfy your curiosity of what cloud computing is and how you can use it to your advantage, we now have Mr. Satish Vijay with us. Gentle reminder to keep that notepad with you and write down the important points which you find in the store.
Satish is an independent tech architect, full stack developer, trainer, and investor. He has been developing software for more than 20 years. On Google Cloud Platform, he has most of the current certifications: professional architect, professional data engineer, associate engineer, professional cloud developer, professional network engineer, professional security engineer, professional collaboration engineer, and G Suite certification. He is also a Google Cloud authorized trainer. He works with big companies and startups to get people trained and certified in GCP and architect solutions. For Google Cloud, he runs a channel called Awesome GCP to help people understand and apply Google Cloud to their projects and also prepare for the certifications. Satish is also an investor in a bunch of tech startups based out of India, Singapore, and the US. Over to you, Satish.
called Awesome GCP. So please do check that out also. Apart from that, I'm a mentor and I train a bunch of technical teams and startups on technology. These days, specifically on Google Cloud, is what I mostly do. I've also invested in a handful of startups and spent about 20 plus years doing technology, from all the way from building code, device drivers, all the way up to scalable web apps. On Google Cloud, I'm a developer expert, I'm an authorized trainer, and I've got a whole bunch of certifications on Google Cloud. Now, on the topic of cloud, something that would immediately resonate with you is what has been happening in the recent past, right? With the COVID, a lot of you are studying online. Your teachers are remote. All of you gather around the internet and video conferencing tools, and that is how you conduct a lot of the learning today. This has actually made it very easy under troubling times. Of course, this is not exactly what we would like in the future, but then it is expected that a mix of online learning and offline learning and mentoring is going to be the way of the future. So while a lot of other industries were disrupted, the uh, certain industries, like say education in this case, was supported by what we call the cloud, right? A lot of the services were offered via the cloud. So the cloud today affects almost everything that you do. Some of the tools that you would have used directly from Google, Gmail or Calendar, Google Drive, or things like Docs and Sheets, and also Google Meet and other video conferencing tools. Today they run on the cloud primarily, and many of them on the public cloud. And we will discuss what that is in the coming slides. So there's a lot happening here. There are also a lot of opportunities, and I just want to highlight for you why this might be a very useful thing to study for you to take up, and then find jobs, find opportunities to grow, and also contribute to everything that is happening in the cloud. Amazing things are happening also at a pace that we couldn't get at earlier. Today, when you get into Google Meet, it's possible to just click a button and have anything that is being spoken translated automatically for you. So while somebody is speaking, and today we tend to speak with teams that are spread all across the world, right? From South America to North America, Europe, Southeast Asia, India, all these places, and there are many languages with which we communicate. And sometimes it's difficult for some people from another um, location to understand exactly what we're saying. With advances that have been made with the help of the cloud, the public cloud, we have been able to advance a lot of the artificial intelligence, machine learning, and speech to text translations. All of these things are also happening at a rapid pace, all aided by the cloud. So, not only is it very useful for you specifically, but for users across the world, this has been a blessing. And this will continue to be the case for the next many years. In the things that you've been doing, whether you've taken photographs or whether you've got video or audio, listening to music, you're watching something on YouTube, this content is something that has been put by other people, right? Somebody has created the content and that is being served to you. All of this via the cloud. And of course, you also as a content creator or while working in a business or running your own startup, get to do the same thing, right? So you get to be part of the cloud in the things that you do on a daily basis, but also get to contribute it from, say, an engineering perspective, helping other users and end users take up the cloud and customize it to the kind of applications and business applications that they need to get done. So what does Google provide for all of this, right? Google today has a large number of data centers across the world where they have done a lot of these things, right? So for example, when I talked about they need to find a location, they need to buy a building or build a building, right? A new data center they need to set up. They need to provide the security in there. They need to acquire hardware, provide the networking. All of these things needs to be done. So instead of that, you say, you know what, Google, you've done that. Let me just borrow that when I need to use it. And Google goes across the world, sets up these data centers where there's a large number of users and says, hey, we're going to provide a bunch of services that you can rent out as and when you want. So there are these regions across the world. For example, there is one in Mumbai. There's already one in Delhi, and the whole bunch of them in Europe and in USA, in South America, Australia, Southeast Asia, and these are the data centers or the regions, right? And sometimes that word we tend to use both. Sometimes earlier data center used to be a single building. Today, a region in on Google Cloud typically has at least three what are called zones, and they sometimes are talked about as a data center, right? So typically on the cloud, on Google Cloud, we say these are regions. So in one particular location, there is going to be a whole bunch of buildings and a lot of computers that you can use. And each of these regions are going to be separated from another region by at least a minimum of 100 kilometers, right? So even if there is an issue in one data center region, another place will still be up. So inside these regions, there is again going to be redundancy, which allows you to have availability for your application, which basically means that if one of the zones go down, say there's a power failure or some wiring gets burnt out, the other two are still available, right? So you don't have a problem where there is only a critical point, and if that fails, everything fails, right? You don't have that kind of a situation on Google Cloud. There is usually redundancy built in. There is alternatives that you can go to. Even in other things like power, right? There are usually many sources of power. And say one source of power goes down, another one kicks in. If that goes on, another one kicks in. So Google and other hyperscalers, they are able to do this at a scale that is usually very difficult for almost, I mean, I would say almost every company in the world whose focus is not this. And inside each of these zones, you will be able to see racks and racks and racks of CPUs and memory and hard disks and all of these things, which is what you rent out. So when you say, I want to run an application, give me 4 CPUs, give me 200 GB hard disk, give me 50 GB RAM, right? And Google collects all of these from different places in the zone and says, hey, here is what you can use for whatever you want to get done. So a very simple mechanism to get you started and building anything on the cloud. This is a picture of a typical data center. I think this is somewhere in Northern Europe, right? So you can see there are multiple buildings. They are data centers, or they could be power sources, they could be other utility buildings that are in the same place. And Google runs these so that you can go and say to any of these data centers and say, hey, give me a few machines from this particular region or from this particular zone. In addition to that, one of the most powerful aspects of the cloud is, at least in Google Cloud, is the networking, right? Since these computers are somewhere else, you need to have a broad network access from anywhere in the world to be able to work with these elements in the public cloud. And Google today lays a large number of its own fiber optic cables crisscrossing the world, right? There are submarine cables, there are terrestrial cables that bring together these data centers. So even if you want to take data from one data center to another, one zone to another, you've got this very powerful networking, which is also private, right? Which means it gives you security, it gives you speed, and which kind of makes Google one of the better providers, because networking is one of the core aspects of connecting the world. So here again, right, the investment that Google has made is extremely large compared to many of the other providers, and way larger than what is typically done by private data centers. So what is the cloud able to give you? It allows you to rent out only the resources as and when you need them, right? You don't need to buy it in advance. So for example, let's say you want to, you want to carry, or you want to transport 100 people from one location to another, right? One way to do it is you go buy a big bus or a whole set of cars in advance. Alternatively, you just call up a taxi company or a ride-hailing company and say, I want 100 cabs on this time, and they arrange that for you, right? So it's very convenient to do that, and you don't have to do the hard work of buying a car, maintaining the car, getting the license, and none of those things that required. So the initial cost, what is called a capital expenditure in buying or leasing land, building the structures, building the buildings, creating all the infrastructure of CPUs and networking, all of that, none of that is required, right? Which means that any person who wants to start a business, they can quickly get started. All of the other things are taken care of. It's the same way when I call a cab on Uber or Ola. I just say, you know what, I need a cab. All the other things have already been taken from me, taken care of for me, right? There's a driver, the car is there, the petrol is there, all of that is right. And these cloud providers, they're able to work on economies of scale, right? When they're able to press for better numbers when it comes to acquiring this hardware, they're able to even build out some of their hardware to lower the cost, right? As a small company, I won't be able to build my own chip or my own server. Google can do it, right? And that brings them again, many advantages. They're also able to upgrade much faster, right? Today, if I bought a computer of my own, like a personal computer, I typically tend to have that for many years, right? And when you're renting from the cloud, you're not restricted to just using the older hardware, right? Whenever there's a new hardware, you can say, you know what, I want to use that particular chip, or I want to use that particular GPU or TPU. So the burden of maintaining the infrastructure and upgrading to the latest versions all resides with the cloud provider. And for us as users, it becomes much easier to just go use it when we want. Again, with respect to security, like I said, right, security is very important today. And ideally, you shouldn't be trying to even figure out your own security in some cases, because the attackers and the hackers today are way ahead of most of the things that most people can handle. And I personally feel that it is best done by some of the big providers, right? It's not that it should be exclusively with them. Everybody should be doing the research and everything, but the way they are able to, at least Google is able to bring together security requirements and a good defense posture is much better than what most other companies in the world can do. Right? In terms of artificial intelligence research or the latest on how to work with data or how to make a chip, right? What's the kind of processing would required for AI? All of these kind of things, there are examples where Google has created some of their own, uh, or they've done their own research and created something that is useful and very appropriate for what is a cloud. For example, they've created something called a TPU, right? Um, which allows you to process a large amount of data, which is required for artificial intelligence. So to build these machine learning models, you need to process large amounts of data, and TPUs are able to do it much faster than the regular CPUs that you would find on a computer. So overall, these hyperscalers and Google specifically, they are able to provide more effective services at a much lesser cost. Right? And that's the reason why a lot of companies are choosing to move to the cloud. Now that we've seen what the cloud is about, why it is effective, the question for you then becomes, okay, so if I have to be a part of it, if I have to, pick up a job here, what should I be learning? Right? And let me talk about that for a little bit. When you see the cloud, there are a large number of tools and products and solutions within it, right? Because as you saw, and as I mentioned, right, there's going to be storage, what various kinds of databases. There's going to be networking, various kinds of tools for networking, security. Again, many tools over there. A large number of AI tools. Then there's maps and office productivity tools. There are compute-related chips of various sorts. All of these means that you're not looking at a single product. You're not looking at just doing say I'm going to work on one database, right? You have having to work on many tools. And when you start off, this is kind of overwhelming because you're like, okay, so if I have to understand the cloud, I need to learn 200 300 tools. That's just not going to happen, right? Even if you look at something like just data and data processing, there are so many tools just to help customers choose an appropriate data pipeline for them. How you ingest or collect data, how you process the data, how you store the data, how you visualize the data. For every one of these, there are at least a minimum of 6 different products that might be appropriate for a workload. So we should not be, when you start off especially, look at saying, I want to be expert at everything in the cloud. You might have to pick a few things that are most important, that are fundamental and core, and say, let me just get started with that. And as and when a requirement comes up, it becomes easier to build on that and to learn new technologies. So clearly, don't try to learn every cloud, because like Google Cloud has 200, 300 products as a part of it. Other public clouds also have a large number of products. Right? So my recommendation would be to pick any one cloud, right? One of the popular ones, maybe Google Cloud being, very a good choice within that, and say, let me just focus on Google Cloud. Let me learn a few things there, and then later on, if required, I can expand. And within the cloud that you choose, don't try to learn everything in that cloud, right? So as I showed in the previous slide, 200, 300 products, how much are we going to learn, right? There are people who might be specializing or have learned primarily one tool within all of these, right? And these are, very experienced people who've been in working in the cloud for many years. So there is no expectation that you should be learning everything. So again, pick one cloud, focus on a few key fundamental topics that is going to serve you well. And then after that, you can build on that depending on a project that you take. What are some of these fundamental components? Right? For everybody who's working on the cloud, these are some things that you have to know. Basic infrastructure, right? What are the kind of systems that you can set up? Say virtual machines or containers. What are different kind of CPUs? How does memory work? How can you allocate a certain number of hard disks? How do you expand a hard disk? How do you auto allocate infrastructure, right? The number of CPUs that are used by an application? How do you bring them down? These kind of things are very important. Storage, again, extremely important, right? When you have to be able to store the data, you also have to be able to retrieve the data very quickly when required. So depending on the kind of data, you've got different options. Right? You've got data that is in rows and columns and that you can access using SQL, right? So that would be a relational database sometimes. In some cases, there will be a NoSQL database, which does not have tables and rows. It's more like a document, and you're able to take a whole chunk of it very easily. In certain cases, data won't be just text. It might be images, videos. So for all these different things, there are different storage options. Everything that you do on the cloud, remember, is somewhere else. Right? It's somebody else's computer. Somewhere else there is a data center, and you're using that, which means that you don't have physical control over the computers that you run. Right? So today, for example, if I felt somebody was attacking my computer, I can probably switch off my Wi-Fi and say, okay, nobody is able to access my machine from another place. That's not the case on the cloud. So security is extremely important, and as a part of that, identity management. Right? How do you ensure a user who's coming in has only the permissions to do what they're supposed to do? So this is called IAM, identity and access management, and again, it is closely related to security, though that each has its own subcomponents that are very different. Then operations is how do you continue to maintain these systems and monitor them. It's not enough to just write an application and walk off, right? You need to ensure that it scales well, that you're able to fix errors. You're also able to collect enough data to give metrics to say, this is performing well or this is not performing well, so that you can make decisions about what to do next. So operations, again, become very important. Then there are other specific tracks that you might follow, right? For example, if you're interested in data, then data analytics might be something interesting. Or if you want to be a developer, then you can do development of cloud-based services, right? Cloud-based applications. Then machine learning, AI. Then what are the other ones that you can? Networking, security. All of these are things that you can do deep dives on, right? So if that's something of interest, you can learn that also. Now, for a student, therefore, what would be attractive, right? As I mentioned multiple times, there are going to be lots of job opportunities, right? Today, the demand is outstripping the supply of good engineers, right? And it is because of this, they are also getting paid very well. There's a lot of demand for a few people, and they're able to raise their prices and say, no, I'll come in for this much money, right? So the need for skilled people is extremely high. And of course, this field pays very well. The remuneration, the salaries are typically higher than some of the other fields. So it could be something that is attractive to people, who are looking for jobs. Then, depending on your interest, there are a wide range of paths you can follow. You don't need to necessarily be doing only development in a language, right? There is security, there is research, there is AI. There are also non-technical roles. So, for example, I've been working with a lot of people in sales and pre-sales and project management, right? To be able to run some of these big projects, you need leadership, right? You need people who are also taking these services, selling them to others. You need marketing people to be able to tell everybody how good their product is. So, irrespective of the field that you are in or the interest that you have, there could be many opportunities for you in taking up the cloud. The next question, how do you start learning on the cloud? Now, one of the best things is that because the cloud is anywhere remote, you can learn from the comfort of your home, right? You're not forced to go to one particular place. So anywhere you are, there is lots of learning material, especially provided by the cloud providers. So Google itself, as you can see, right, there is a big effort to train a large number of people. And there are lots of quizzes and courses, many of them free, that you can pick up, that you can sign up for. There are hackathons that you can participate in. And they also try to incentivize the people who participate by giving them gifts and swags. And so there's a lot of incentive, as you can see here, right? Both from a long-term perspective, in terms of salaries, in terms of job opportunities, but also near-term incentives to, say, hey, come to Google Cloud, start learning, become competent, find good jobs, and you're helping everybody else, right? There are companies who want to hire you. There are end customers who are waiting for good solutions on the cloud. I myself, in terms of certifications around Google Cloud, I maintain a GitHub repo, and of course, I've got my channel also. So definitely, star the GitHub repo, subscribe to the Awesome GCP channel, and follow the videos that I make there, which will help you understand the cloud more and also prepare for the certifications. As I mentioned, the things that you should learn, don't try to boil the ocean, right? You're not trying to do everything all at once. Learn the basics, some core fundamentals, learn how it operates and how you should operate it, right? Understand how the cloud works and how you should work on the cloud. There are things that are going to be different from a single computer that you're working on, right? Or a few computers. The scale of this is very large. The way you operate it is going to be very different, right? Because you don't have physical access to it, right? And at the same time, it also gives you flexibility because you're not restricted to only the ones that you have physical access to. Earlier, when you had 5 computers, you can use only that, right? Today, you've got tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of computers at your disposal to quickly go say, I need 100,000 computers to do something. Here is, here is how I'm going to do it. So that should be the approach, right? Some core fundamentals, learn that. How does it work intrinsically, and how should you work with it? Next, I think it's going to be very important to learn to code. So earlier there was a time when you could simply be a system administrator, but the way the cloud works is going to be slightly different, right? So when you have to set up 1,000 computers very quickly, you don't want to manually go in and type in things to say, start this computer, start this computer. You ideally tend to code it, right? You tend to put up a file that says, here is the code that describes what I want. Right? So if I want 1,000 machines, I describe it. The way those machines are going to interact with each other or with databases, we need to be able to set up the databases. You need to be able to set up the networking between that. All of that is not manually done these days, right? So learning to code becomes very important. Even if you're coming from a different stream, right, a different branch, other than say computer science, I think it would be important to code. So put some effort into that. Finally, practice with hands-on labs. Sometimes when you read the documentation, you're like, yeah, I understand. But make sure that you get hands-on practice. And Google provides a lot of these labs in a tool called Quick Labs. If you just search for QWIK and then labs, labs.com, you will find that there are many exercises that have been laid out by Google, where they take you step by step through the lab, and which gives you very good learning. So you don't have to set up these projects, because many times you're like, what's a project that I should do? And that analysis paralysis itself will stop you, right? With Quick Labs, it just makes it easy because they've already provided the structure and a focus on learning one particular section of Google Cloud. So it's very, very useful to have that. Please do try that. Another thing you could do is to try and get certified. Right? Today, some of the Google Cloud certifications are some of the highest paying certifications in general, right? The professional data engineer, the professional cloud architect have been among the very highest paying certifications in the last few years. So those who want to stand out from the crowd and say, I'm somebody who's put in the effort, I understand something about Google Cloud already, I've already learned this, and here's a certificate that proves that I've learned this. That becomes very useful, right? So employers are looking for some validation for the knowledge that you have. And of course, it's not enough, right? But it is a starting point. For students, I would recommend a certification called the Associate Cloud Engineer. This gives you some of the core concepts that I discussed earlier, right? Infrastructure, storage, security, IAM. These kind of things are laying the base for almost anything that you do on Google Cloud. And typically, you need a few months of experience for it to be effective. But I think even as a student, with a little bit of experience, doing a bit of labs, doing a few labs, you will be able to get a fair idea of Google Cloud. Of course, you can try for any of the professional certifications also, but you might not have the full or the larger view of what needs to be done in the cloud, right? That kind of experience comes after a few years. So the associate cloud engineer, it is recommended that you have a few months of experience, and typically the professional certifications expects you to have a few years of experience. It's not mandatory, you can take it at any point in time, but at least the associate cloud engineer would be very useful, around the time that you're looking out for jobs. When you're still in college, you can still attempt the associate cloud engineer. So, in summary, expect continued and growing demand, at least in this decade, for the cloud. I'm talking about high pace of acceleration, right? And of course, it is going to continue to be the case in the years after that also. This is not going away. The cloud is essentially here to stay, like the internet or wireless communication, right? We are going to have this for ages into the future. But in the next few years, the acceleration is going to be much larger, right? So that is going to be very interesting. Also, as I said, pick up a cloud. Don't try to do everything all at once. You're going to feel overwhelmed, and you're going to think that some announcement comes in Google, okay, let me do that. And then you see something in another cloud, you're like, oh, maybe I should be doing that, right? Don't keep shifting all over the place. Focus on any one, get competent, and then it becomes easier to transfer that skill to some other cloud provider. And then learn core technologies like virtual machine, storage, networking, right? Those are things that you start with. If you try to learn all the latest, shiniest sub products, it might not be as widely relevant, right? When you're studying and you're trying to look for, once you've passed out of college and you're looking for a job, typically you want to make yourself as widely available as possible, right? You don't want to narrow it to one extremely specific case. If that's your core interest, I won't stop you from doing it, but I'm just saying that it reduces your opportunities in general. I would also recommend that you learn a few basic languages, right? When you have the time, look at something like JavaScript or Python or Go. These are very relevant in different kinds of usages. JavaScript in the front end, Go for the back end, Python for a lot of machine learning. And these kind of things essentially just gives you a different view of how languages are, how they're used in different use cases. And for something like this, you could probably even build out a small web application, right? Go in the backend, JavaScript and HTML in the front end, maybe a little bit of machine learning with Python. So integrate all of this, create a very small project. So it gives you, again, hands-on experience on how to work with the languages, how to deploy it in the cloud, and also in the process, learning about features of the cloud. Finally, I would also recommend that you try to get certified. The Associate Cloud Engineer will help you stand out a little bit, or maybe I would say not just a little bit, right? Quite strongly compared to the rest of the crowd who might not have that certification, right? So on Google Cloud, the Associate Cloud Engineer is something that you can try out. Having learned the other technologies like storage, networking, and all of that, having done a few labs, you will be in a good position to go prove your knowledge with the Associate Cloud Engineer certification. So with that, I end. If you need to reach me later on, I'm available on Twitter. I'm also available on LinkedIn. You can connect with me there. And of course, you can check out the YouTube channel that I have called Awesome GCP, where I'm teaching Google Cloud and also helping you get certified. So thank you very much and wish you the very best.
Well, thank you, Satish. Indeed, you helped us to know so many new things about cloud and the careers related to the same. In this present world, nothing is possible without the help of cloud. From big MNCs to individual persons, everyone needs clouds for various needs, thereby creating a plethora of career opportunities in this field. Thank you, Satish, for letting us know to what's above the cloud. In case you have any questions, please mail them to contact@gdscwow.tech and we'll get back to you soon.
And talking about above the cloud, let me give you a spoiler here. We are going to teleport a few of you on the ninth cloud today. These few you guessed it right are the winners of the cloud quiz conducted on day 1. Reiterating, the results for day 1 cloud quiz will be announced on our social media handles by today end of the EOD. That is the end of the day. Please make sure you are following all our social media handles and be checking out for the announcements.
Now, once again, it's quiz time. Dropping the link in the chat right now. The clock's ticking, folks, and you have only 3 minutes to complete it. The fastest and the most accurate individuals will take the prizes home.
Folks, only few minutes left.
Only 20 seconds.
10,
9,
9.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
So the quiz is over, guys. I hope you have all answered the questions correctly. Okay, so with this, let me introduce myself. So hi, I'm Pranav Agarwal, lead at GDSC MRIRS.
And I'm Tashi Gautam, lead of GDSC AKGC. We will be your host for the rest of the day. And I'm really thrilled to have you all on board with us today. So keep up your enthusiasm as we have many informative sessions and exciting quizzes lined up for you.
So I hope you have enjoyed the session so far. So how many of you are planning to get your hands dirty with Flutter and are also set to explore the power of cloud? So let's see the chat. Who are excited for the upcoming sessions, and tell us about the previous session about Flutter and cloud.
Do we have any people who are excited to explore the domain in Flutter and cloud? Okay. Pranav, see how eager our audience is to learn the new technologies
Yeah.
and upskill themselves. We're so
So many
delighted
people are
to have
saying
you.
me. Yeah.
Yeah. So, without further ado, let's proceed.
So, Tashi, don't you think are we missing something?
Oh, yes. How can you forget about the treasure hunt? Folks, look for the clues in each session, and they will be key to unlock your doors towards winning exciting prizes.
I forgot to answer all the questions in the previous sessions.
Don't be upset. There's a quiz at the end of every session, so you can participate in that, and then you are eligible to win prizes.
Oh, that's awesome. So, why don't we start with the next session? Any guesses, folks? What will be our next session about? Let's see in the chat who can guess what will be the next session. Okay, people are saying web, someone is saying UI UX. Can we have more guesses? Okay, someone is saying ML. Okay, I can see
You
now
know,
the correct answers.
we really have a diverse range of answers. So, breaking the suspense, I would like to inform you all that those who guessed that UI UX, you are right.
So, Tashi, like, do you have any experience in UI UX?
Like in my school days, I loved painting and sketching, so I was really intrigued about this technology. And I thought initially that it was all about building beautiful apps and like playing around with colors. But later I realized it involved a lot of research work, and it's about understanding the user, empathizing with the user, and then building a great user experience. So I think like today's session will help me in exploring this in the right direction.
Yes, Tashi, that sounds amazing. Our session today also aims to uncover the future and scope of UI UX. So, how many of you are excited for our next speaker, Ansh Mehra, who will be covering the future scope of UI and UX? Okay, so we can see a lot of people are excited. They are so. Let's have some UI UX OP in the chat, guys, and welcome our next speaker, Ansh Mehra. So I'll start. Yep.
Hi Pranav, am I visible? Am I audible? Is everything clear?
Yes.
Yeah. Tashi, let's have the
Awesome.
introduction for Ansh as well.
Okay, yeah, let me introduce Ansh to the audience. So, Ansh is a UX designer, product designer, filmmaker, and a podcast host. Ansh has represented our country at various prestigious competitions, included but not limited to Hackman, Hack Award, and Microsoft Imagine Cup Asia Region Finals. While pursuing engineering, Ansh discovered the amalgamation of technology and creativity, user experience design, and taught himself the intricacies of the field. He has also been a product design intern at Swiggy.
Whoa, that's a lot of talent here. So welcome, Ansh. Welcome to GDSC WOW, and the stage is all yours now.
Thank you, Pranav. Thank you, Tashi. So, welcome everyone. And we have a couple of interesting things in the pipeline. I wouldn't go too much into my introduction because that is slightly have been covered by the folks as well. So, let's just begin. I would share my screen because I have a very pretty presentation for all of you. And it's made on Figma, which is basically the software that most UX designers use. Pranav, is everything visible? Tashi, is it all visible?
Yeah. It's visible.
Awesome. So, the title of this presentation is Career Lessons I Learned the Hard Way. Now, the obvious question is going to be that this guy is super young. So, how can he talk about a really successful career when he himself has started out? But the irony is that if I look back and if I see all the steps that I took and all the mentorship that I received from my seniors and folks all around, I realize that I have covered a huge distance in a relatively short amount of time. And that is what I wanted to discuss today as to what are those small things that can really help you grow faster as a UX designer. There are few common questions that most people have. And the first one is usually, do I need a design degree to become a UX designer, or can it be self taught? If I go through the self taught way, do I need to buy a specific course? How much money does it take? Do I need coding language? And even if I become a UX designer, should I freelance? Should I go for really big companies? Should I go for a startup? If there's a really big company that I like, how do I approach them? How will they even give me any attention when I send them my work? And what is the expectation in the industry? then common myths and mistakes, and finally, how to apply for design jobs. So, we will just touch at the outset, at the overview of it, because we have limited time. So, the entire presentation is going to go for 20 minutes, followed by a 10-minute Q&A. So, an important warning that whatever I say in this entire presentation is going to be from a standpoint. Pick what you feel is compatible with your situation and don't take everything literally. I know friends who have taken completely diverse paths and have succeeded, and I've seen friends who have taken similar paths and still failed. So you have to be very careful because everyone has their own expectations, their own financial constraints, and their own priorities in terms of career and social status and so on. So, how did I begin? A short intro of my story. Before school had taught me about science and PCM and the world of engineering, I was a huge fan of filmmaking, and I spent some time learning After Effects and Photoshop. And you know how it goes, like in a school, if there's a brochure or a graphic designing competition, there are these few kids who regularly make the posters and they're the teacher's favorite. I was that favorite kid because I knew how Photoshop worked. But eventually I realized that it is very difficult to sustain your life comfortably as a filmmaker. So I eventually switched to the most safest path that I knew, which was engineering. And while pursuing engineering, I realized that there is a lot of speed in the world of technology. If you look around, you'd realize that most wealth that has been created in this entire world in the past 25 or to 30 years is simply because of technology. So most millionaires and billionaires that we see around are because they were involved in technology. So when I was in second year, when I was exploring different career paths, I made sure that I want to do something related to technology, not coding, not programming, not ML, because I was simply not good at it. Even though my degree was computer science, I still wanted to do something that would be creative. And eventually, I entered the world of UX design. And every college has these small, small competitions and opportunities all around. And I started to go into these competitions and just to see how other people work. And obviously, it was very scary when I started because you see all these fancy people with their super expensive laptops, exchanging words and using vocabulary that just feels gibberish. But slowly, slowly, as I leveraged Google and YouTube and all these different things, I was able to figure out small, small tips and tricks here and there. After competing for 6 or 7 months, I realized that I need to step out and compete in other competitions as well. So there's this website called Major League Hacking MLH. If any of you are interested in international hackathons, this is the website that can teach you about them. So using MLH, I applied to Hack MIT and Hack Harvard. And the idea that I made at Hack Harvard was eventually selected at the Microsoft Imagine Cup. And I feel really grateful that I got these opportunities because all of these small, small experiences compounded that allowed me to be an intern at Swiggy. And I interned with them twice, followed by a few other stints. And today I am working at Zuddle. So after my Swiggy's internship, I joined Zuddle as their first designer. And I specifically chose Zuddle because I realized that if you are young, you have a lot of risk appetite and you can simply enter a startup where the learning rate is really fast. And it's a myth that startups don't pay much. In fact, startups sometimes pay you more than big companies because when a big company offers you a salary, they also leverage the fact that they have a huge brand. So for them, giving them your brand has this correlation with a lower CTC. So I feel that students shouldn't be so afraid of working in a startup. Fast forward 2 years, we have officially seen a 20x growth and we have just raised $13 million as our Series A funding. And now we've just got more designers on board. We're scaling to different continents. And yes, it has been a very challenging ride, but there are a couple of things that I learned throughout this entire process of, switching from one field to another, figuring out traveling and, going to all these different competitions. And because most of you are students, there's one thing that I would recommend is to be extremely careful about how you behave at this point. If you're below 27, what you do right now is going to heavily influence. I'm talking about the books you eat, the kind of food you eat, the books you read, and the food you eat, and how you behave. Because all of these experiences are going to help you as a creative professional, even when you are outside your college. Now, at the outset, you would feel that, oh, this is a guy who's a self taught designer who's in a good company and he's getting paid. But it's actually much more complex than that. And it's not about scaring you, it's just that I feel that most kids have this trend these days that, oh, we will drop out college, or we will go to a very extreme path to choose an offbeat career. I wouldn't recommend you to do that, because when you say that you're self-taught, it doesn't mean that you left everything, you left your job, you left your college to learn UX design. You simply leverage the time that you have over the weekends to keep everything stable in your personal life, but also learn something side by side. And you slowly put projects online, you slowly compete, slowly do freelance projects, and eventually get enough experience to actually build a career once you know that you're confident at this skill. Now, a very important question that most people have is, how do I apply for jobs? So in big company, the funda is very, very simple. You just have to be really good at what you do. Now, for those of you who don't even know what UX design is, UX stands for user experience design. And within UX, there are multiple fields. The most common one is UI design, which is user interface design. If you're seeing me right now on YouTube, the way everything is visually available on your screen, the way my video looks, the way the chat is moving, everything is a part of your UI and a lot of other things. People feel that, oh, if I'm seeing an app, I'm seeing the UI. There's actually a lot more going on in the background. So you have this big superset, which is user experience design. Inside user experience design, you have multiple fields, and one of those is UI design. Now, the software you need to learn is Figma. It is completely free. It runs on the internet, on the cloud, so you don't need any fancy computers. And you can very easily download it in 5 minutes and start learning from Figma's YouTube channel. YouTube channel, they have like these couple of playlists. The most important playlist is the Getting Started playlist. Once you finish your Getting Started playlist, you can shift to their new features playlist. And once you finish your new features playlist, there is like this god level, pro level playlist, which is the office hours playlist. And it's surprising how few people, like really few designers know about this playlist. Most of them go on Google and search for courses, but very few of them actually see the office hours playlist uploaded by Figma. Because if you want to learn Figma, Figma's YouTube channel is the best place. Once you understand how Figma works, you have to work on problem statements. And there are multiple people who can tell you how to do that. There are 4 5 channels that I would recommend you. One is obviously from my mentor Saptarshi Prakash, who's the senior design manager at Swiggy. He has a YouTube channel where he teaches motion design and Webflow, and he's doing really good stuff. Second is Abnux, Abnux, by Abhinav Chikara, who is the ex design head at Unacademy. He's now leading 10K designers. Then there is whiteboard.fm, where you have these seniors from Netflix and big companies like Microsoft and Adobe and Twitter, and all these big companies. Like, you have seniors literally telling you what to do. Like, we have covered questions like building a new project, writing your case studies, applying for jobs, interview tips, like a couple of other things. So once you have figured out your skill, once you've become really good at it, of course, everyone knows how the big company route works, through LinkedIn and through message and through cold email whatsoever. But a really good way to find good startups is to make a list of really successful venture capitalist funds. Say Y Combinator, right? There's Tiger. And you go to their websites and you see who have they funded recently. Each of these successful VCs fund a lot of companies on a quarterly basis. You take a list of all those companies and then you check which company is working on an idea or a product that excites you. Then you shortlist those products, you make your portfolio, and you directly purchase LinkedIn Premium and DM their CEOs and their co-founders. What does this do? There are a lot of things that are happening when you take this route. One, you are trying to get involved in a startup that is already funded by a really good VC. That means that the idea is really, really powerful. Second, because they've been funded, they can easily afford you. So you're not working in a company which is bootstrapped or without any funds, because if you are shifting a career, your job security and your financial security are extremely, extremely important, not just for you, but even for your parents. Otherwise, your parents would just ask you to stop what you're doing. And afterwards, because you are working in the beginning phases, you will learn a lot, simply because you're in the initial team. So that 0 to 1 journey, 0 to 1 means that you literally come on a blank canvas and you build things from the bottom. That entire process teaches you a lot, because then you would have to, wear different caps. Some days you're doing the interaction, some days you're doing the onboarding, and a couple of other things. So that really, really helps you in your beginning phase. Now, I would strongly, strongly urge everyone to consume all the free content that is available on the YouTube. And whatever you learn, please document on this tool called Notion. And if you've been following me, you would know that I'm a huge Notion fan. Notion is basically a virtual diary. Like, it's a virtual diary where you have different chapters. And why do I say that? It's simply because I want you guys to remember what you learn. If you don't document your learnings, if you don't document your thoughts and your insights, then they are just lost forever. There is no way to recover them when you need them. So when I started working on Zuddle, I literally documented every single tip and trick and resource and website and everything that I got my hands on, and I documented them neatly. And today, all of those notes help me, because every time I forget something, every time I have a doubt, I simply go back to my Notion. So if you do that, if you build this habit, I'm telling you, it will give you a lot of returns. And once your free resources are exhausted, of course, you can, start working on projects and start getting paid. And, then you're learning things sort of like it is lesser, and then you're working more. In the initial phases, you'd be learning a lot and working less. And that's a process. I think it takes around 500 hours to become really good, like good enough to get paid for it. Now you can spend those 500 hours in whatever way you want. You can spend 5 hours for 100 days, you can spend 1 hour for 500 days. But I'm telling you, 500 hours is the limit that I would recommend. Now, because we're almost at the end of the session, it's almost going to be 6:50. I would like to tell everyone that I also teach UX for free in both Hindi and in English. मुझे लगता था कि बहुत सारे YouTube चैनल्स इंग्लिश में तो सिखा रहे हैं, बट बहुत कम लोग इसको पूरे सब्जेक्ट को एक सिंपल तरीके से हिंदी में नहीं सिखा रहे हैं. तो एक 15 एपिसोड की सीरीज है. बिल्कुल आपको जीरो से शुरू किया जाएगा. एंड इट्स नॉट लाइक कि बहुत कॉम्प्लिकेटेड है. इट्स नॉट लाइक कि मैं सिर्फ फिग्मा सिखाता हूँ. इनफैक्ट मैं ऐसी चीजें सिखाना चाहता था जो कि नॉन टेक्निकल है. इट्स अबाउट pitching yourself, positioning yourself, communicating properly, organization, your mental health, your thoughts, एक प्रॉब्लम को अप्रोच कैसे करना है, किसी से बात कैसे करनी है. अगर आप एक रिमोट इन्वायरमेंट में है, एक अलग सिचुएशन में, तो कैसे अपने आप को नेविगेट करके एक सक्सेसफुल स्टेज पे, एक सक्सेसफुल प्रोडक्ट तक आपको कैसे अपना रूट बनाना है. ऐसी बहुत सी छोटी छोटी चीज़ें हैं जो इस प्लेलिस्ट में कवर की गई है. तो अगर आप यूट्यूब पे जाओगे, इफ यू सर्च फॉर अंश मेहरा, यू कैन फाइंड द इंटायर थिंग फॉर फ्री. एंड थोड़े से पॉइंट्स एंड करने से पहले, बिफोर वी मूव ऑन टू द डाउट सेशन, इज दैट you need to become really good at the technical aspects. यानी अगर आपको फिग्मा आता है, आपको आफ्टर इफेक्ट्स आता है, अगर आपको प्रोटोटाइपिंग आती है, तो ही हम नेक्स्ट लेवल की बातें करेंगे. जिन लोगों को टूल ही नहीं आता है, वो यूएक्स के बहुत डीप कॉन्सेप्ट्स को अगर समझते भी है तो इम्प्लीमेंट नहीं कर पाएंगे. तो सबसे पहले मेक श्योर दैट यू आर एक्सट्रीमली स्ट्रांग एट द टूल. जो आपके टूल्स है, फिग्मा हो गया, आफ्टर इफेक्ट्स हो गया, प्रोटोटाइपिंग हो गई, प्रोटोपाई हो गया, इन्विजन हो गया, जो भी आपने सॉफ्टवेयर पकड़ा है. एंड सेकेंड, उसके बाद अपनी कॉम्प्लीमेंट्री स्किल्स पे ध्यान दो. जैसे अगर आप एक फिल्म डायरेक्टर हो, अगर आपको एडिटिंग नहीं आती, तो आप हमेशा एक एडिटर पे डिपेंडेंट रहोगे टू गेट फंडिंग, बिकॉज आपके दिमाग में कुछ भी हो, विदाउट एन एडिटर यू कांट डू एनीथिंग. अगर आप एक सेल्स पर्सन हो, अगर आपका प्रोडक्ट बहुत अच्छा है और आपकी सेल्स टेक्निक्स भी बहुत अच्छी है, बट अगर आपकी कम्युनिकेशन गलत है, अगर आपकी प्रोनाउंसिएशन गलत है, अगर आप कॉन्फिडेंट नहीं हो, तो आपसे कोई कुछ नहीं खरीदेगा. अगर आप एक यूट्यूबर हो और आपका कंटेंट बहुत बढ़िया है, आपकी कैमरा क्वालिटी भी बहुत बढ़िया, बट अगर आपका साउंड खराब है, तो नो वन विल वॉच योर वीडियो. तो हर फील्ड में ऐसी कॉम्प्लीमेंट्री स्किल्स होती है जिनका डायरेक्ट रिलेशन नहीं होता. अगर आप दूर से देखोगे तो आप बोलो कि कंटेंट क्रिएशन में माइक का क्या रिलेशन है, बट कुछ ऐसी चीजें होती है जो आपको ध्यान देनी पड़ती है. सिमिलरली, एज अ यूएक्स डिजाइनर, आपका विजुअल डिजाइन स्ट्रांग होना बहुत जरूरी है. आपकी कम्युनिकेशन स्ट्रांग होना बहुत जरूरी है. जिस तरीके से आप अपने डेटा को कलेक्ट करते हो, जिस तरीके से अपनी रिसर्च को कलेक्ट करते हो, जिस तरीके से आप प्रॉब्लम्स को डिफाइन करते हो, वो बहुत जरूरी है. ऐसे नहीं कि आप डायरेक्टली सोल्यूशन बनाने लग गए. यू रियली हैव टू फॉलो अ स्पेसिफिक प्रोसेस जहाँ पे आपको पता है कि मैं कर क्या रहा हूँ. बिकॉज पीपल नॉट ओनली पे यू फॉर योर डिजाइन्स और योर यूएक्स वर्क, they also pay for the experience of working with you. You are also a product. अगर आपके साथ कोई काम कर रहा है, how do they feel? How does the company feel about you? That is also extremely, extremely important. Of course, the products that you make, those are also getting the revenue and the business and everything. But if you really want to scale, if you really want to play a long term game, you have to make sure that you yourself are extremely strong as a person and as a professional individual. And as I said, document everything that you learn. It takes 500 hours. Take your time. Don't worry, you have a lot of space and time in your head and your entire schedule. But yes, ending the session, I would like to tell you that I am there on Instagram. If you have any doubts, you can reach out to me on anshmera.work. On Twitter, I am anshmera with 3 A's at the end. You can check out my website as well, which is anshmera.com. And I think we can now move on to the questions because the session is over.
Yeah, right, Ansh. So we have few questions. So the first one is that you mentioned that in your channel, the people will come and start from beginning, right? So people are asking, can we learn till advanced level or is it till intermediate level?
I know कि ये क्वेश्चन आएगा, तो अगर आप मेरी प्लेलिस्ट देखोगे, वो जो 15 एपिसोड्स की प्लेलिस्ट है, हर वीडियो के अंदर मैं ऐसी रिसोर्सेज बताता हूँ जो उन लोगों को काम आए कि जो एडवांस लेवल पे जाना चाहते हैं. तो आई नॉट टीच, आई एक्चुअली जस्ट गिव यू ऑल द रिसोर्सेज. तो इफ यू वॉच माई एंटायर सीरीज, आपको मैं तो एक्सप्लिसिटली नहीं सिखाऊंगा, बट मैं आपको बता दूंगा कि सर्च क्या करना है या कहाँ से सीखना है. क्योंकि मेजर प्रॉब्लम यही है, इंटरनेट पे अब इतना इंफॉर्मेशन है कि यू डोंट नो हु टू ट्रस्ट. इफ यू गो ऑन गूगल एंड सर्च कि मुझे यूएक्स डिजाइन सीखना है, आपको इतने यूट्यूब चैनल्स और इतने आर्टिकल्स और इतना डेटा मिल जाएगा कि वो अबंडेंस से ही बच्चा डर जाता है. पहले इंफॉर्मेशन बिल्कुल भी नहीं थी, वो भी प्रॉब्लम थी. अब इतनी ज्यादा है, वो भी एक प्रॉब्लम बन गई है. तो अगर आप मेरी पूरी प्लेलिस्ट देखोगे तो आपको पता चल जाएगा कि अच्छा चलो, इन 100 वीडियोस में से सिर्फ ये 2 वीडियोस देख लो एंड योर फंडामेंटल्स वुड बी डन.
Okay,
Right.
so next we have a question from a third year computer engineer, and he's interested in UI UX. So he wants to know how can he manage like engineering and UI UX because he has an interest in UI UX. How did you manage between?
एक्चुअली इसमें काफ़ी सारी चीज़ें आती है. सबसे पहले तो आई वुड रेकमेंड यू टू मेक श्योर दैट यू आर टेकिंग केयर ऑफ योर सेल्फ. इफ़ यू आर ईटिंग प्रॉपरली, इफ़ यू आर स्लीपिंग प्रॉपरली एंड इफ़ यू डोंट हैव बैड हैबिट्स, आपकी एक तो बॉडी में एनर्जी रहेगी. अगर आपकी बॉडी में एनर्जी ही नहीं रहेगी तो आप कुछ नहीं कर सकते, बिकॉज इवन इफ यू हैव 10 आवर्स, उन 10 घंटे में से आपके अंदर एनर्जी सिर्फ 3 घंटे, तो वो 7 घंटे भी वेस्ट है. सो सबसे पहले मेक श्योर दैट यू स्लीपिंग प्रॉपरली, यूर ईटिंग प्रॉपरली. मतलब अगर मुझसे कोई पूछता है कि एज अ यूएक्स डिजाइनर मुझे कहाँ इन्वेस्ट करना चाहिए, मैं उनको बोलता हूँ इन्वेस्ट इन अ बेटर मैट्रेस एंड अ बेटर पिलो, बिकॉज इफ यू आर नॉट स्लीपिंग वेल, you will not wake up properly and you will have a very miserable life. After that, figure out कि मेरा time जा कहाँ रहा है. Is it going in traveling? Is it doing silly stuff? Is it going on my phone? Like figure out where your time is going, and I can tell you for sure कि अभी जितना आप पे टाइम है, आज से 5 साल बाद उससे कम ही होगा. Because you're probably unmarried, you don't have a family, you don't have responsibilities, you don't have to pay bills. If you're in this illusion कि आगे जाके मेरे पास और time आने वाला है, it is not going to get better. So I would recommend you to make the most of this time. Say no to most stuff. जितनी भी distractions आती हैं उनको ना बोल दो, and eventually you will have a lot of time to figure these things out.
Okay.
Right. So we have one more question. So someone is asking if you want to start with UI UX designing. So which is the best software to go with? Is it Figma or is it Canva?
100% Figma. Canva is basically for graphic designing, but Figma is the best tool that I would recommend.
Okay. So yeah, these were the questions, like top questions we have. So thank you, Ansh, for joining us today. It was a great learning experience for all of us. We have learned about a lot of things about UI UX designing that were not known to us. So you gave us the insights to this particular industry. So thank you for sharing the knowledge with us and all the
Thank
resources.
you so much. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you. Thank you for being here today. That session was
Thank you.
really great.
Thank you, Tashi. Thank you, Pranav.
Thank you, Ansh.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
So guys, how many of you are excited for UI UX designing now? Let's have UI UX OP and Ansh OP in the chat. Okay, a lot of people are saying great session. We cannot see UX OP in the chat, guys.
Come on, guys, show some energy. I personally liked the session very much.
Yo, like we are
I
having
thought you
Anshope in
got
our camp.
answers to many of your queries as well. So, aren't you happy about the session? And how aren't you happy about your queries being resolved after the session?
Okay, now we can see a lot of UI UX OP. That's great. So we hope like we have learned something new about UI UX designing, and you will start your career with UI UX designing as well.
Yeah. So, Pranav, I think it's the quiz time now again.
Right. So yeah, before starting with the quiz, I'll tell you about the rules for the quiz. We'll be sending the link in the chat box, and you will have 3 minutes to answer 10 questions. There are no negative marking, so don't worry. Make sure you have registered yourself for GDSC WOW. If you haven't registered, then you will not be eligible. So make sure to register. And the time starts now.
Guys, only 2 minutes left. Hurry up.
Okay, some people are already done with the quiz. 1 minute left, guys. Almost 1 minute left.
These people are really fast. Like, wow, you guys are so intelligent. Like, you can finish the quiz in half of the time. That's really
Yeah, I
great.
can see like 10-15 chat already saying done, done, done.
Those other participants, you have really competitive people here, so hurry up.
I can smell the winners already.
It's 40 seconds.
30
Those are
seconds left, guys.
remaining. Like, just quickly fill up the form.
Okay, now we are getting a lot of people done. So I'm hoping everyone is done with the quiz. So few seconds left, guys. Okay, let's begin the countdown, Tashi.
Okay. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And time's up. I hope you were able to get the right answers. But we are not announcing the winners right now. You have to come back tomorrow or follow our social media handles to get the list of winners.
Right, Tashi. So as An said, that the interface is very important for any kind of application, be it app or website. So why don't we weave into the web too?
Yes, definitely. But before that, I would like to ask our audience, like, how many web developers have joined us today? Do we have any web developers?
Okay, I can see some people saying me. Okay, so we have a lot of web developers already here. So
I can
this
see
might
the
be a
excitement.
good opportunity for you all to know the future scope and all about web development, and it will be a good for those people who wants to start their journey with web development with GDSC's WOW session.
Yes, I can see so many enthusiastic and people with this crazy maze. Like their E's are going to infinity.
People are
So,
even going with the heart for web development.
oh, we have really web enthusiasts, many web enthusiasts joined us today. Like before moving ahead, like I came across your profile yesterday, and like I came to know that you are a web developer too. So, what drew you towards exploring the web domain?
Right, Tashi. So I started around 2-3 years back with a Udemy course, and since then I fell in love with the web development ecosystem, and still am exploring more.
Oh, so a Udemy instructor did the magic for you.
Right.
Let me ask the audience as well. Folks, what was your motivation? And like, who helped you to begin with your journey in web?
Okay. People are already writing in JavaScript and even HTML as well. That's amazing, guys.
Okay, some have Coursera. Great.
Okay. Okay. Someone is saying I learned from Udemy as well. Great, Aman.
So you have some peers who have like same career path as yours, maybe?
Yeah. So yeah, let's start with this wonderful session by our speaker, Mr. Brijraj. So Tashi, let's start with the introduction.
Okay, so let me introduce Rijraj. Rijraj is a front-end developer by profession and a community champion by passion. He's an organizer for GDG and a Google developer expert for Firebase and web technology. He has given 100 plus talks and workshops for communities over the last 5 years in his areas of expertise are around web, Firebase, GCP, and UI UX design. Outside work, he's a foodie and enjoys watching YouTube videos.
That's amazing. I can see a lot of experience here. And just like him, I am also a foodie. So let's have in a chat what is your favorite food, guys? I love momos. Okay, we have Rijraj already here. So welcome,
Yeah.
sir. How are you?
Yeah, I'm fine. Hi, everyone.
Hello, sir. We're really happy to have you here.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. The stage is all yours now.
Yeah, thank you. So, can you share my slides? Yeah. So, hi, everyone. This is Rich Raj, and I'm a Google developer expert for web technology and Firebase. And also, I'm a full stack developer for Agrab consultant. So, today in this session, I'm going to talk about sticking out through the web. Like, if you want to start your career in the web technologies or you are working with the web, so what are the fields, like how you can explore like the fundamentals, or how you can build a solution with the help of web. So, like this is the overview about the sessions. Like in the first part, we'll talk about the web, and the second part, we'll talk about the state of the web in India, and then we'll talk about the future aspect. Like if you want to build a solutions, let's say for the large scale communities or the large scale user group. So, what type of technologies you can use in upcoming generations so that you can grow your user base. So, let's get started. So first, I'll start with the web. Like web is an informational system. Let's say you can share any information. Information can be in any format. Let's say you have a PDF file or maybe text file or the audio file. You can share these informations with the help of web. And it's a kind of information system. And you can share these information with the help of network. It can be local area network, or you can share the information with the help of, let's say, internet. So web has a three core component, or can be say as a fundamentals. Like first one is a website. Like website is a collections of web page, and we can create a web page with the help of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Like HTML is a like markup language. With the help of you can create a structure of your web page, and you can design your web page with the help of CSS. Similarly, if you want to write your like if you want to make your interactive web page, you can use JavaScript. So each website has their specific URL, which is called as domain, or domain of your website. So, so let's say you have created a website with the help of HTML, CSS, and the JavaScript part. Now you need to run your website, so you need a browser. So browser is just like as a software where you can access your web page. You can check your web page. You can uh, access different type of website. So each browser has their specific rendering engine that will render your HTML, CSS, and the JavaScript code into the UI part, and then you will be able to access your website. So let's say I have created a website with the help of HTML, CSS, and the JavaScript part, and we can see the website with the help of browsers. Each browser has their specific rendering engine. So let's say we are using Google Chrome. So Google Chrome has a rendering engine name is Blink. So now we need to host this website so that it can be accessible from different locations, or it can be accessible from different let's say network. So we need a server. So server is just like as a computer where you can upload your HTML, CSS, and the JavaScript code. And we have some specific ID, IP, and you can access these HTML, CSS, and the JavaScript file, means the web page, through the remote location with the help of server. So in the market, we have three types of server. Let's say first one is web server, and the second one is let's say email server, and the third one is file server. So basically, whenever you are accessing a web page, let's say I'm exploring Twitter or maybe Google developer website. So you are accessing a web page, so you need to use a web server. And here you need to work with HTTP protocol, hypertext transfer protocol. And second server is whenever you are receiving or sending a mail over the network. So you are working with email server. So email server, it's very private. And similarly, if you want to download or upload the file from the network, so you need to use file server. Here you have to mainly work on FTP protocol, file transfer protocol. So this is a basic concept. Like with the help of HTML, CSS, and the JavaScript, means the website, you can create a website, you can test your website with the help of browser, or you can access your website or different type of website with the help of browser. And then you can host your website so that it can be accessible from n number of user groups. So this is the kind of journey. But now I'll talk about the state of the web in India. Let's say in India we have a, let's say, 130 crores of users. So according to the Google in year since 2019, so there were around 460 million monthly active users are using internets, and approx 390 million monthly active users are using smartphone. So this is a huge opportunities for the web developers as well as for the mobile developers. Like we can create a platform so that we can uh, provide opportunities to the user group so that they can get the informations, they can use the solutions through the web. So according to some more research on local site versus global site, means local site, which means the website developed by the Indian developers or developed in India. So there are almost 30% users are using local site. Let's say Flipkart, which is being developed by the Indian developers. And rest 70% users are using a global website, let's say Facebook, which is being developed by like out of the India, which means let's say Twitter, Facebook, any other website. So how we can increase the Indian developer ecosystem as in specifically local side. So there is a n number of opportunities. Like you can start your career, you can create a website with the help of HTML, CSS, and the JavaScript part. So if you want to build any solutions, so we have some sort of tracks. Like say you can be a front end developer, you can be a back end developer, or you can be a full stack developer. So like if I talk about front end development, like you can create a web interface with the help of HTML, CSS, and the JavaScript part, which is also called as client side development. And here you need to create a, yeah, you have to create a UI UX with the help of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And you have a data, you want to convert, you can convert your data into the UI part, graphical user interface. So if you want to start your career in the front end development, you can focus on the core fundamental part. Let's say first is HTML. With the help HTML, you can provide the structure of your web page, and similarly, you can design your web page with the help of CSS and the JavaScript for making interactive web page. And then you can focus on the frameworks and the libraries. Let's say you can use Angular for creating a large scale front end application, which is designed by the Google. And similarly, you can use Vue, which is a lightweight progressive framework, which is also created by the ex Googler Ivan Vue. And the third one is React, which is not a framework, it's a library, which is designed by the Facebook. Uh, And then we have a Bootstrap, which is a UI toolkit library. You can use this library when you can create a front-end applications easy way. And then we have another track which is called as backend development. Like if you want to be a backend developer, so mainly you have to work on the server end. Means we have a server and where you can host your website, HTML, CSS, and the JavaScript code. So here mainly you have to work on the server part, and you need to write a business logic. You have to focus on the database part, writing scripting file, managing the architecture. You have to create an APIs. So there is a lot of works for the backend development. And then if you want to start your career in the backend development, so here we have a stack. Let's say you can start your career in the backend development with the help of JavaScript. So if you have a knowledge with JavaScript, you can create a backend applications, or you can write custom business logic or the REST APIs. Or we have a similar runtime environment. With the help of JavaScript, you can use Node.js, where you can run your JavaScript code without the browser. You can use Node.js. And there is a multiple languages, like you can use Python, or you can use PHP. And similarly, for the backend, we have a lot of frameworks. Like if you are working on JavaScript or the Node.js part, you can use Express.js. And then if you are working on Python, so we have a framework, let's say Flask and the Django. With the help of these framework, you can create easily manageable and scalable backend logic. And similarly, we have another language is Ruby, which is a framework. Is name is Ruby on Rails. So with the help of this framework, you can also create your backend business logic. And if you are working on PHP, similarly, we have a framework Laravel. And as a backend developer, you have to work on the server end, which is the main server end, as well as the database part. You should have a knowledge with SQL as well as NoSQL database. So SQL means the structural database. Like we have a data in a structural format. You can store the data in terms of row and the column part. And if I talk about NoSQL database, like we don't have any kind of such kind of schema. Like it may be user generated data or textual data. So you can use MySQL as a SQL database, or if you want to use, let's say, NoSQL database, we have opportunities, let's say MongoDB or the Cloud Firestore. And then we have a third track, which is called as full stack development. Like if you have a knowledge in first front end development, as well as if you have a knowledge in back end development, so you can be a full stack developer. So full stack developer is a combination of front end and the back end. And here we have a three tracks. Like you can be a mean stack developer, you can be a merge stack developer, and you can be a merge stack developer. So all things is same, just we are changing the framework. Let's say A for the Angular, R for the React, and V for the Vue. So this is how you can create a large scale web applications with the help of HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and then you can decide the track, like whether you can be a front end developer, or you can be a full stack or the back end developer, and you can use a number of frameworks for creating a large scale applications. So now I'm going to talk about like how what are the best practices, like uh, for the future point of view. Like we are right now in year 2022. So what are the tools or the technologies we can use to create or to get large user group? So here I'm going to talk about like Google developer products. Like you can use BWA, Firebase, AMP, and the Google Chrome platform. With the help of these products, you can create a future of the web. So first one is like I'll talk about web, which means website. So website is just like as informational things. Like you open a website, you will get the informations, and that's it. But next thing is web app. Web app is just like uh, we have some personalized content. There might be a features, let's say login, logout, or maybe there will be a dynamic content. So this is the difference between website as well as if as compared to the like web app. Then next terminology is called as PWA. Like you have a website, you can create a web applications, which means there will be a dynamic content. Now you can create a PWA. PWA means there is a website which can be installable. Means I have created a website, which website can be converted, or which website can look like as a Android applications, or maybe iOS applications, or maybe desktop applications. So PWA is just like as installable. It will work offline. if you don't have an internet access, you can still able to access your website. So it's give you the best user experience with the help of PWA. Like if you open a Flipkart website and you just need to download Flipkart Lite, there will be a notifications to download Lite applications that will be a PWA. It will install. You can support like offline if you don't have internet connections. Also, you can trigger a push notifications with the help of PWA. So this is an example for Twitter PWA. Like you just need to open twitter.com and then there is a button for install applications, and then your Twitter desktop PWA applications will look like. And then I'll talk about trusted web activities. Let's say I have created a PWA for my portfolio. So I want to convert this applications into the Android applications. So I can go to the approach name is TWA, trusted web activities, like my PWA, which can be converted into the Android Play Store, where I can upload my PWA into the Play Store, which is name is TWA. So now I'll talk about Firebase. So let's say if you want to create a, if you want to like if you are a developer, or if you are working on mainly front end part, you are little bit like worried about the backend infrastructure. So you can use Firebase. You just need to focus on the front end part. No need to worry about the backend logic, because Firebase is providing a lot of backend services for your applications. So with the help of Firebase, you can build fast applications in terms of managing the infrastructure or the backend part. So Firebase is providing a lot of services. Like each services is categorized into the some part of three categories. First one is build better applications, and the second one is improve app quality, and the third one is grow and engage your user. So like if you are using Firebase, you can authenticate your user, the web applications with the help of Firebase authentication. Even you can host your website with the help of Firebase hosting. You can write your custom business logic with the help of cloud functions, or you can use the concept of machine learning. Or if you want to store your data in as a database, here we have a cloud file store and the real-time database. So there is a lot of services you can use inside build better applications in a Firebase. And the second one is, like once you build your applications with the help of Firebase, you can improve your app quality. You can use Curse Analytics, you can use performance monitoring, you can use Test Lab, where you can test your applications in different local emulators. And similarly, we have an app distribution. And the third one is, like once you build your applications and then you have improved your app quality, now you can grow and you can engage with your user. So here we have a lot of services. Name is let's say analytics, predictions, remote config, or cloud messaging, where you can trigger the push notifications to the user group. And one of the best thing about Firebase, like you have written any logic. Let's say I'm working on iOS, so I can focus on the front end part of my applications, and I can connect my iOS applications with the Firebase. I don't need to worry about writing my business logic or the backend part. Or if you are working on Android, you can use Firebase, or the web, or C++, or the Unity platform. You can use Firebase. Now, in India, there is a lot of challenges related to network. So we have another technology's name is AMP. So AMP is a accelerated mobile page, which is an open source uh, project for creating a super fast web applications. So Google is using AMP technology for quickly serve the content on the mobile devices. So you might have seen this before. These in all other things in your day-to-day life. Whenever you're searching anything on Google, you will be see the result within a few seconds. So this is all are working with the AMP. So with the help of AMP, you can create a website which is very fast as compared to the standard web application. And the second part is you can create AMP stories. So stories is just like as an Instagram type of stories. You can share these stories by its shareable URL, and that stories are like platform, or we can say app independent. We have a URL, you just need to copy the URL, and you can go to the browser and just paste it the URL, and you can see the stories. And the second thing is you can also create AMP email. Email is a technology that allows email marketer to add some interactive element. Let's say within an email, we can create a, let's say, button where we don't need to navigate to the website. Within an email, we can just check that we can perform some click actions. We can purchase the purchase the any content if you want. And at last you can use AMP as a AMP ads, which is very fast, beautiful, high performance across all the devices and distributed pattern. So I'll talk about AMP website first. So AMP website, which is very fast as compared to the standard website, you can build AMP website very fast way. So this is example. Like here we have an example of AMP pages in Google search result. So if you have a standard regular page in AMP without AMP, and then we have an AMP page. So if you can see, like if you are using AMP, your website will be very fast as compared to the standard page. And then we have a concept of AMP stories. These stories are Instagram type of stories, but these stories are application independent. You just need to share the URL. You can go open the URL in your browser, and yeah, you can use it. So like this is how Google is using AMP stories in Discover section in your Android, which is also called as Web Stories. In simple way, AMP story is a full screen visual story experience where you can add images, text file, video file, audio file. So and because of the AMP stories, there is a lot of publisher who are using the concept of AMP stories for marketing. And also you can create an AMP email. AMP email is again which is a technology which is allow email marketer to add interactive elements. Like within an email you can add buttons, you can add card carousels, you can add rating button, you can add confirmation button. You can also add a lot of things in HTML. So see, here is the example of OYO. Like within an email, you can check the rating of the room. You can also navigate to the different rooms within a, like let's say OYO listing. And then also you can book the OYO rooms with the help of AMP email. This is how, like there's another example, same with Google is working with Google Docs while sharing the docs, and you can add some comments, you can see the comments, and you can share the edit access with the help of uh, Google Docs. At last you can create an amp ads that is very fast, beautiful, and high performant all across the devices and the distributed pattern. See how AMP ads are very fast as compared to the regular ads. So for AMP, you can visit the website amp.dev, and here we have a documentations. You just need to import the JavaScript library for the AMP, and then you can start working on the AMP pages. And this is how you can create super fast web applications for the next generations of web. And then we have a lot of APIs within a Chrome platform. You can use these APIs to create next generation of your web applications. So first one is safe detection APIs. Let's say you have a mobile or you have opened a website where you can open the camera, you can detect a barcode, you can detect face, you can also detect text with the help of shape detection APIs. And the next one part is, let's say if you are working on let's say website, you will get some OTP. So if regular in general day-to-day life, you just need to go to the messages section in your mobile, you need to copy the OTP, and then you need to navigate to the browser and then paste that particular OTP. But right now in the Chrome, you can use OTP APIs, which is verify your mobile number automatically. Like when once you get the message for the OTP, it will automatically capture the OTP number and it will automatically paste into the website. And the next one part is web share APIs. Like with the help of web share APIs, you can share your website to the native applications. And you can share the text, you can share the images, you can share the file all across the native applications with the help of web share APIs. So now I'll talk about the career part. Like, let's say if you want to start your career in the web technologies, like what are the best practices? So here is the best practices I found from the Stack Overflow services. Like first, focus on the fundamental part, like how we can create a web page. Uh, how we can create a web page with the help of HTML, CSS, and the JavaScript part, and start working on the small project, build a small project based on your learning, and then you can start working on solving some let's say real life problems with the help of HTML, CSS, and the JavaScript. And you can use any technologies within a web, and you can make it to the open source. And one of the best thing about web, like you can use JavaScript, and JavaScript is the most trending language in survey of Stack Overflow. So you can create with the help of JavaScript. You can use, let's say, you can create Android applications, iOS applications, or the desktop application. Even you can create gaming type of applications with the help of JavaScript. So that's all from my end. Like, if you have any questions, you can ask your questions. I'm open for the questions.
That was an amazing session, Rajat. And people are liking your presentation. Like someone is saying it started with the child, then it moved to a teenager, and now it's a grown-up man.
Yeah.
All the jets. So yeah, we have few questions. So first one is, what makes AMP so fast?
So basically, AMP has a three core component. First one is AMP HTML, second one is AMP JS, and the third one is AMP caches. So whenever you are working on a HTML, so we have some image tag, let's say img tag. With the help of image, you can print the images in HTML document. But if you are using AMP, we have a AMP hyphen image tag, which is a modified version of your HTML code. And we have a JavaScript library with the help of for the AMP. You can use these JavaScript file, and you can use the concept of caches. So these all are the three components makes your website very fast with the help of AMP.
Another query we are having is what resources they should start for the beginners, like where they should start with the web journey, and like what sources you should follow, anything like that. Should be
Yeah,
guides.
yeah, you can start working with the HTML, like how we can create a web document with the help of HTML tags. And you can start working with designing part with the help of CSS. And then you can make interactive, or you can make alive web pages with the help of JavaScript. Like you can perform some actions where you can hide some background color, you can hide some div element, you can show some div element with the help of JavaScript. So like with the help of these three language, or HTML, CSS, Java, and JavaScript, start working on creating a mini project. Let's say you can create a calculator, you can create your personal portfolio, and then you can create a version 2 type of application where you can use the concept of framework. Let's say you can use Angular, React, or the Vue. It's totally all about your learning, like how you are learning about learning JavaScript, uh, and you can build the applications.
Okay.
That's amazing. And we have one more question. Someone is asking if we want to start with specifically backend development. So what's the roadmap?
So backend is just like for the front end, like we have to mainly focus on the browser part. Like browser means where we can run our web page, where we can build a web page with the help of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. But we are working on, let's say we are working on a backend. Backend means the computer. So you can run any language on the computer. So similarly, for writing your backend logic, you can use any language. But the most popular language is JavaScript, or you can use Python, or you can use PHP, or you can also use Ruby. So these four languages are very popular for writing a backend logic. So you can use the concept of Node.js, where you can run your JavaScript code without the browser, and you can run your Node JavaScript code with the help of Node.js in the server part, and you can start working on writing out. Let's say you can create an app server, you can write your REST APIs, and you can start exploring like how we can use Node.js to interact within an operating system. And then you can use the concept of REST APIs, and then you can explore the, like, let's say REST APIs. You can create a REST APIs with the help of Express.js, and there's a lot of frameworks.
Okay. Thank you so much for
Yeah,
answering the queries, sir. And we're really glad to have you here with us. Like you really enlightened us on the future aspects of web, and it was like
yeah,
fantastic about the various career aspects of web. So thank you so much for showering us with so much knowledge.
yeah. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you
It
for
was an
listening.
amazing session. Everyone liked the session, and all the chat. Can we have Rijraj sir OP in the chat, and also web OP?
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for
Yeah.
joining us today. It was a great session.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Wish you all.
So, Tashi, I am so overwhelmed by the knowledge that he imparted us, and I have learned a lot of things about AMS and a few other things that was not known to me. So, I hope all the audience might have learned something new as well, and they might start their learning of web from this session only.
Yes, I myself learned about the APIs, like the object detection API. I wasn't aware that we had something like that. So yeah, I really like the knowledge that and the resources he imparted today. So with that, I think like we should also test the pretty minds we have right now with us, like what knowledge they have gained through the session.
Yes, sure. So before starting with the quiz, I would like to announce that all the day one quiz winners will be announced on our social media handles. So just follow us on our social medias, and we will announce all the quiz winners by end of the day. So let's start with the quiz, guys.
So if
And
we
before starting the Yeah,
yeah.
and before starting with the quiz, I would like to tell you about the rules. So we will share a link in the chat box below. You will have 3 minutes to answer 10 questions. There are no negative marking. So make sure you have registered yourself for GDSC WOW, otherwise you won't be eligible.
Yeah. So if you haven't registered yourself, just hop onto the website and make sure that you have registered yourself before submitting the answers. Then only you will be eligible. And the timer has already started. So just answer everything really quickly and all the very best. I hope you get all the right answers.
Link is already in the chat, guys. Let's start the quiz.
So half of the time is already up. Okay, now like you can see some people have already completed with the quiz.
Right, like there are a lot of many people saying done, done, done. That's amazing, guys. You have done the quiz in half a time. 1 minute left, guys. So those of you who are left still, complete the quiz as soon as possible. Only 1 minute left, guys.
Only last 30 seconds. The clock is ticking. So come on, guys, just finish it up quickly.
10 seconds
So
left. Let's have a countdown, Tashi.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and time's up. Okay,
Yeah, I hope
so
everyone has completed the quiz.
yeah.
So yeah, with this, Tashi, we have so much knowledge about the web now, and today the whole world and the stars look amazing and magnificent today.
Really, Pranav? So why don't we enter the world into the world of the present tech star industry? Any guesses? The star of the present tech industry?
Okay, let's see what will be the next session. Guys, guess the domain. Okay,
No one can guess it. Is it really tough?
it's easy, guys. Guess it. Okay, someone has guessed it already. Priyanshu Rana. Okay,
That
we
is
have
the world of
okay.
artificial intelligence, and that
Okay,
too we are doing it with a GitHub star, Bhavesh Bhatt.
and we are also having Elon Musk in the chat, guys. So that's amazing.
Okay.
Oh,
How did you like the session so far?
so yeah, all the ML enthusiasts, let's have MLOP in the chat. And with this, I would like to welcome our speaker, Bhavesh Bhatt. He's a data scientist based out of Mumbai, India. His current focus is on building a range of time series based anomaly detection algorithms. He has worked with multiple edtech startups in delivering sessions and developing their machine learning course curriculum. He had also reviewed multiple machine learning books by giving continuous feedback to the authors. In order to give back to the community, he started creating videos on YouTube as well. And as of today, he has more than 26,000 subscribers. So we welcome you, sir, to the session.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Pranav. Thank you so much, Tashi. Awesome. So I'll quickly present my screen. So just a sec.
Okay, till the time screen is getting shared, let's have MLOP in the chat and also Bhavesh sir OP in the chat.
Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah, it's loading. Yeah, now it's visible.
Awesome. So I'll quickly go through the presentation that I have. Yeah, I don't have electricity at my place, so for some weird reason, I mean, the electricity stopped just before the session. But yeah, I hopefully will make up to the whole session, and yeah, I'll quickly start. So today's discussion that I have in mind is entering the world of AI. So my idea in terms of all of you is 90% of the audience today is in college or people who've just graduated who have started working in a job. So that is where majority of you are. And given how exciting the data space is, I wanted to say share some insights in terms of how you can enter this amazing world of artificial intelligence, data science, machine learning. I'll help you understand the overall data science job market in the country and what all you can do in terms of making the right career transition or the right start in the whole data science ecosystem. So with that, I'll quickly start my presentation. So before I start, I've already been welcomed by an amazing introduction, so I wouldn't say a lot. But yeah, I am really fascinated by whatever is happening in the data science ecosystem. I keep learning every day, and whatever little I learn is what I try to put out free on YouTube. So I run a channel on YouTube with the aim of teaching data science and machine learning concepts in the most simplified way. So that is where I have most of the content published. uh, as we've already been introduced to, so I am a Google developer expert in machine learning. I've also had the honor of becoming a 40 under 40 data scientist in 2020, and very recently I've been inducted into the whole GitHub Star program as well. So yeah, it's truly been an honor in terms of the things that have happened with me so far. So yeah, that is where we are. So let me quick kickstart the whole discussion by why you should think of say entering into the field of data science and machine learning. One of the initial insights that I can give you with respect to data science and machine learning is the amount of job openings that is forecasted. So based on the Humans of Data Science article published by Michael Page, you have around 11.5 million job openings that are expected by 2026 in data science. Now, let me put the whole concept of data science in a broader spectrum. When you think of data science is not only about, say, model creation or deep learning models. There are various facets to the whole job opening called as data science. So that is something that I'll touch upon. But if you just look at the number, just the number, like 11.5 million, if you translate it to our Indian value system, it's around 1 crore 10 lakh or 15 lakh openings. So that is the amount of openings that you can expect by 2026. If you've not understood, so 2022 is somewhere we've already reached. We've gone past 2020. We are already in 2022, and 2026 is not far off. So there is going to be a massive boom in terms of the data science openings that you would find in organizations. Various companies are investing a lot of money in terms of hiring the best talent in the data science domain as well. Now you might have an obvious question, given that there are so many awesome things that are happening in other technologies as well, why is there so much of boom in terms of data science, machine learning, artificial intelligence? So the answer is very simple. We've started generating data in a huge amount. Just to give out some numbers right now, there are close to 500 million tweets that are sent every day, like every day. Okay. Then you have 294 billion emails that are being exchanged every day. We have close to 4 petabytes of data that is created on Facebook, 4 terabytes of data that is created from connected cars. You have 65 billion messages exchanged on WhatsApp, and this number that I'm showing you is for 2021. I'm pretty sure this number would have increased many folds by now. Then you have close to 5 billion searches that are made almost every day. And given how the whole smart technology in autonomous vehicles is increasing, you have various IoT devices coming up as well. Every small device that has a microcontroller, that has a storage that can be connected to a server, all of the devices that you can think of, the smallest microcontrollers like a Raspberry Pi or your mini devices as well, all of them are generating data. You can think of generating, say, sensor-based data at a small latency of around 10 milliseconds as well. So imagine if you extrapolate 10 milliseconds to the entire day, you will have a truckload of data from one small sensor itself. So this is the amount of volume of data that we are generating at a daily level. And if you have data, what is the other number that I can share with you? Well, the other number is again a projection that by 2025 we would have 175 zettabytes of data in the entire world. Now we've all heard like GBs of data, terabytes of data. How big is zettabyte, right? I mean, you would have this obvious question: 175 zettabytes looks normal, right? So this number is huge, like literally very huge in terms of the scale that you can think of, and the entire value as well. Just to give the due credit, this is something that I read in Forbes magazine. Now, in terms of understanding how big 175 zettabyte is, let me also show you one more slide. So I'm pretty sure everyone knows 8 bits is equal to 1 byte, and then you have the chain till 1 terabyte. So you have 1024 GB is equal to 1 terabyte. 1024 terabytes. So if you buy 1024 hard disks of say 1 GB, 1 TB each, then that would stack up to 1 petabyte. Similarly, you will have say 1024 petabytes equal to 1 exabyte, and 1024 exabytes is equal to 1 zettabyte. Now, again, these are numbers you would say this looks normal, this is very simple to understand. But I'll give you an analogy to understand how big the whole zettabyte ecosystem is. So if you assume that 1 byte is equal to your 10 rupee note, okay, and if you stack up say 1000 10 rupee notes together, which will kind of help you reach at this 1 kilobyte level, okay, this entire bundle of 1000 10 rupee notes would equate up to 4.3 inches. Okay, now if you stack up trillion bytes together, that is trillion such 10 rupee 1000 notes together, you would reach at this 1 petabyte place. Okay, so 1 trillion bytes stacked together would equal to, if you just keep stacking them vertically, this would essentially encapsulate the distance between Earth and Moon, and quarter of it is what would be 1 terabyte. Now imagine you have 1024 terabytes. So take that distance into account. Then you add 1024 petabytes. Then you have exabytes, and then you reach say the initial value that I showed you, which was zettabyte. So we are talking in terms of light years. We have astronomical units that would come in. So this is how huge 1 zettabyte is. And by the end of 2025, we'll have close to 175 zettabytes of data in the entire world. This is huge, right? So now we have data, right? What is the essence of having so much of data? Well, organizations want to make use of this data to make better business decisions. Now imagine a big organization that's collecting data on a daily, weekly, or say even a small fraction of the amount that it's spending to collect data. It wants to derive more business value through that data, which is where organizations are spending so much of time and effort to actually invest in data collection so that they can make better business decisions going forward, which will essentially impact their top line growth as well as have a better, say, overall bottom line score as well in terms of their margins that they're making. So every organization that is trying to enter the data science ecosystem has an initial incentive to it, that is to make better business decisions. This is that one statement that you all have to remember when you think of making a transition into the data science ecosystem. Every company, it is okay for a company to have a model that creates is say around 75% accurate, but it wants organizations or it wants the end users to basically benefit from whatever they've created. Okay, so this is the bottom line that you should remember when you think of making a transition into data science and machine learning, that every organization that you want to work with will obviously want some amount of ROI generated from the things that you do, irrespective of how fancy it is, or even if it's a very naive solution. If it's able to drive business, the organization would be very happy through your solution. So this is something that you should keep in mind. So I'll quickly go forward. Now imagine if we have so much of data that is being generated. Two platforms that I'm pretty sure you would use extensively would be Netflix and YouTube. So just a random question: if you happen to say, if you have this desire of watching everything on YouTube or Netflix, I'm quoting a number based on April 2020, that the total runtime for Netflix is around 36,000 hours approximately, which means if you sit down today and if you start watching everything that's present on Netflix as of 2020 without any additions of any new content, then it would take close to 4 years to watch it in one go. Like literally, you don't have to you won't have time to even have like a lunch break or anything of that sort. If you watch it straight, sitting on your couch, for the total amount of time taken for the entire Netflix data would be around 4 years. Now Netflix is still small in terms of the total content that's available, but if you think of YouTube, and if you assume the same amount of growth rate in terms of the overall videos that are being published on YouTube every minute, then essentially it would take around 60,000 years of non-stop watching to watch the entire content that is present on YouTube. 60,000 years, okay, not 20, 30, 50, 70 years, 60,000 years. So this is the amount of data that is generated on these platforms. One of the major places where YouTube and Netflix works on is again a application of artificial intelligence or machine learning, is recommendation engines. So I have a very say curated list that is shown in front of me based on what I've seen so far and based on what my interest areas are. That is where YouTube would recommend some videos to me. Similarly, Netflix, the initial say recommendations to you would be very naive based on some factors like your gender, your age, your location, and then Netflix would give you the initial recommendations. I really like watching sci-fi movies. So once I watch say 4 or 5 sci-fi movies, Netflix would become smart enough to understand that, hey, listen, this guy does not like comedy movies. He's very interested in sci-fi. So let me push out more good quality sci-fi movies for him so that there is better engagement on the platform. So that's how YouTube and Netflix have used machine learning at a very high level to increase their overall engagement in terms of users, so that users keep coming back to the platform and keep watching videos Otherwise, YouTube and Netflix, you would have a ton of say different things to watch. How do you filter out is where YouTube is kind of helping you in terms of picking what you really like. So that is where behind the scene you have data that is playing a major role in terms of user understanding, what to push out when. So all of these things are taken into account with respect to the recommendation engine. Now, the basic question is, who essentially is a data scientist? So this is a LinkedIn post that I came across, shared by Leon, and I would like to read this out so that even you have clarity in terms of what exactly is a data scientist. So I quote here. He says, "I've worked as a data scientist at McKinsey, Facebook, and Kareem, or which is now Uber, and the role involved very different job responsibilities at each company. I've come to the conclusion that data scientist is an unstable definition between companies. At McKinsey, the role involved 90% making slides and 10% making models. At Facebook, it was 50% making dashboards and 50% making data pipelines. At Uber, it's basically more closer in terms of engineering and the actual data science that's there. This essentially is what the whole definition of data science encapsulates into. Every company will have a business problem to solve. Every company that you work for will have the end objective laid out in terms of what they expect from a data scientist. And every company would hire you basically for that particular role that they want the entire data science team to accomplish. Like, for example, if you look at the role at Facebook, right? A lot of times, just to get metrics in terms of the user engagement, having insight, having say actionable dashboards are much more important as compared to having say fancy machine learning models that may not even make it to production, right? So the role itself is very diverse. It's like a sea wherein you can try out different things and then try to understand where your interest lies and then accordingly make a career move. So initially you will have to be really open in terms of say adopting to new things, being open to learning new technologies, and that's how you can take things forward as well. So yeah, that is something that I wanted to highlight before I jump to the actual skills that are required and what are the different companies and how are they using machine learning. So yes, this is something that I wanted to highlight. And again, coming back to the main objective here, if you can remember this, when you apply for a data science role, your the entire application process for you would be really sorted. Organizations want to use data to make better business decisions. If you can learn this line, life would become really easy for you, and you can start appreciating the value that you would provide to the organizations with different variety of solutions that you can create. Not specifically the fancy machine learning solutions, but even analytical based solutions can really go a long way in terms of making a bigger business impact. So that is something that I wanted to highlight. Based on some of the use cases that I know of in terms of even the fancy ones, even the normal ones, you have a lot of new fintech based startups that are coming up, right? So fintech basically involves, or one aspect of fintech companies is giving out loans, right? So for, if you go to a normal bank and if you apply for a loan, then there is a credit check process that happens, and essentially the bank would give out a loan to you say around in 15 or 20 days. Can we use machine learning to create end-to-end solutions that can identify users capability of repaying back the loan using the data that is provided while filling up the form? So there are companies that are kind of doing a great job in terms of understanding users through the application process. You have to enter your KYC details like PAN card, Aadhaar card, and through your social profile, they get a sense of how you are as an individual, whether you have the ability of repaying back the loan. All of that is kind of calculated by a lot of fintech companies, and that is how they are able to give you loan in near real time. So the day isn't far when you apply for a loan, and within say 20-25 seconds, if you are eligible for a loan, you would have the loan disbursed back to you in your bank account. So this is the vision with with which a lot of companies are now moving forward as well. The other use case that I want to highlight is everyone knows Tesla, so there is nothing hidden in terms of how amazing they're kind of working in terms of creating self-driving cars as well. So the objective of a self-driving car, if you think of a self-driving car as well, it's basically replicating how a human would basically ride a car without you having to actually ride a car. So you can sit back, relax, and the entire car is designed in such a way that there are multiple sensors that are collecting data at a very low latency. There are behind the scenes, there are machine learning and deep learning models that are kind of understanding the sound. They're taking images almost near real time at every frame that the car moves forward. There are multiple images that are taken from the car cameras. All of the images are stitched together. There are models that are running behind the scene in terms of understanding whether there is an obstacle that's coming in front of them, or if there is a if the car has to take a right turn. The map data that's being collected from Google directly using Google Maps, all of that is fused with respect to the map data as well as your images that are coming in real time. So all of the data combined, the car is able to take, say, predictive, or the car is able to take decisions based on the data it's collecting. So overall, even thinking of the whole concept of self-driving car as well, it's basically like a data science or a machine learning wonder, if that is something that I can term right now. There are tons of things happening. You have actual machine learning models that are predicting real time, plus you have actions being taken based on the predictions that the model is making. So imagine the amount of accuracy that is required for, say, pushing a particular machine learning model into production as well. So these are the things that you can think of in terms of the different fancy applications that go behind the scene, which a lot of us don't really notice. The other thing that is really evolving right now is the use of artificial intelligence in healthcare. So there are a lot of companies that have started taking X-rays. Say, for example, if you want to have like a quick checkup done for, say, tuberculosis or the other, problems that, say, people are facing. In cities, things are still fine. You basically have access to, say, doctors pretty readily. But when you think of rural places, even after they get, say, an X-ray done, how do they go about consulting a doctor? All of that process takes a lot of time. So can AI help in understanding what the problem is, at least the initial level diagnosis? And if that diagnosis is successful, can there be a contact made to an end doctor for more information? So that is also something that is really picking up. So you have a lot of healthcare companies that have started coming up as well. This is something that I wanted to highlight. There are every sector, be it the healthcare sector, the FMCG sector, finance as a domain, all the sectors combined are kind of using data to make decisions. Some decisions are based, every decision, if you look at every decision, like if you can create, say, a near accurate or 100% accurate deep learning model to detect obstacles, you've created a very robust self-driving car as well. So essentially this would make more sales, right? When the end users are kind of comfortable using a self-driving car, this would sell in volumes. If a company is able to identify the right users to give loan to, then this company would also end up making more money. If you are able to diagnose the patient really quickly, you can make some amount of money through consultations as well. The initial objective is to get a solution out and then understand how well this overall solution is. So yeah, this is all something that I wanted to highlight so that you get a sense of what actually is happening in the industry. And if you are really passionate about a sector, you can pick up a problem statement and then work with it and create solutions around it. So yes, that is something that I wanted to highlight. Now, here is where I'll talk about the different roles that are present when you think of, say, artificial intelligence, data science, machine learning, and the other roles that are commonly existing right now. Starting off, a data analyst is someone who understands data really well. He's able to comprehend business problems really well, and then he's able to derive insights out of it. The insight generation may not be as complex as creating a machine learning or a deep learning model, but simple statistical analysis is also something that he can perform to derive insights, which will go a long way in terms of taking business decisions. So for people who want to start off their career and who are not very comfortable with complex machine learning models at the initial stage, my recommendation is start with a data analyst role. If you're getting a data analyst role, nothing like it. Start off your career in the whole data analyst ecosystem. Understand business really well. Who knows, you might enjoy, say, e-com as a sector, or you might really enjoy finance as a sector as well. So understand business problems, understand what you can bring in, and with time you can also transition into a data scientist role or a analytics lead role as well. So start off your career with wherever you are comfortable with. Don't jump the gun in terms of what others are doing. Always make it a point to understand what you are comfortable in. So that is something that I would recommend. The next role that I want to highlight is that of a business intelligence developer. So a business intelligence developer is someone who creates or generates insights using, say, really cool visualizations. So think of dashboards that are created using either Python, Tableau, Power BI, and the other visualization tools that are there. The power of visualization is such that you can literally tell stories about insights using just graphics, right? If you can create really appealing charts and tell a story to the end business stakeholders that, hey, listen, this is something that I wanted to highlight, rather than giving numbers, say, in a very raw format. If you can show some deep dive analysis using charts, then essentially you are adding a lot of value in terms of the overall business impact that the insight would present as well, right? So that is something that I wanted to highlight. The next role is that of a data scientist. I've already spoken lengths in terms of what the data scientist role is. It's a mix of a data analyst role. A data scientist also has to wear a hat of a data engineer sometimes. He also has to create models, deploy models, monitor models, work with different stakeholders, work with a product manager to understand the requirements of what he has to create. So overall, it's like a multi. It's basically a role where you'll have to wear multiple hats. Some days you will have to extract data as well. So that's basically your data scientist role. If you are really interested in neural networks, if you are really interested in computer vision, natural language processing, if you want to do only the fancy stuff, then this is the role that you should target. It involves a lot of research, because the deep learning ecosystem, or the whole ecosystem in terms of how new models are coming up, what is the state of the art at this current point of time for a particular problem that you're trying to solve. All of that is what a deep learning engineer looks at. He's basically understanding the landscape in terms of the research that's happening. On top of that, he's also creating new models. He's fine-tuning the already existing models for different use cases, and then he's creating solutions for the organizations. So this too is a very fancy role, a really maths heavy, a really say research oriented role. But if you really like what you're doing, then this is also something that you can definitely target. And then you have a data engineer role as well. So typically a data engineer role may not look very fancy right from the start, but it's really a fancy role, because what he's doing is he's doing a lot of heavy lifting in terms of extracting data, transforming data, and then loading the data into one location, which a data scientist or a deep learning engineer can later utilize for creating machine learning or deep learning models. So even data engineering, so if you come from a software engineering background, like a pure say a Java based role is what you've already been exposed to, or if you're really good with Python, then I would highly recommend you can try a data engineering role as well. I remember Satish giving a session today on cloud. If you can combine your cloud skills along with your coding skills, then you can create end-to-end data solutions that will really help the organizations build good data engineering, or create great engineering platforms as well. I've already mentioned a couple of engineering platforms that are like engineering marvels. So that is, you have YouTube as well as Netflix. The amount of concurrent users that are there on Netflix YouTube has so much of content, it has to provide content to the end users as well. So it's basically an engineering solution that is running on cloud, and the amount of impact it's making is it's basically generating a lot of revenue as well. So this is also a role that I wanted to highlight here. And you also have product managers, so people who really don't want to write code but want to create end-to-end data products, which is where you have a niche category of people coming up, which is called as data product managers. They understand the whole life cycle of what products should be made for what set of users. They do a set of research in terms of understanding user experience and then creating end-to-end solutions around it. So this is also a role which is really fascinating. And if you really like a more non-tech kind of a role but still want to be very closely associated with data science, then this is also something that you can definitely explore. Now, I've spoken about the different jobs, and one of the major, now I'll kind of talk about the different skills that are required. The first and foremost skill that stands out in the whole data science or data engineering or product engineering ecosystem is basically curiosity. Whatever you do in data science today, say it's 2022, by 2026, whatever we've created would become obsolete. That's how quickly things are changing in the whole data science ecosystem. People who can survive in the long run are the people who are really curious, people who ask questions about data, about say they're really curious in terms of the research that's happening. You may not be able to keep up with everything that's happening, but if you're able to get a gist of what is actually happening and then learn more things about it, even say in terms of bits and pieces till the time you're not using it, it's a good practice to keep reading blogs, following influencers in terms of quality content, in terms of what's actually happening. So the first skill that's really, really important is curiosity. The second skill that is really valuable for a data scientist or a data analyst or any guy related to data engineering or anything is basically understanding the business problem. Till the time you're not aware of what the business problem is, even if you create a data pipeline, if you've not understood why you're doing that, then essentially you're not creating the most optimized solutions. Sometimes if you create a solution which has a latency of 10 milliseconds, but the overall business statement is such that you are okay with 20 milliseconds as well, just to push yourself for that extra say quickness in terms of the solution, you would have used resources which may not have been required in the end solution as well. So understanding the business problem just for data engineering as well as data science, data analytics, all of that would basically the entire process is incomplete if you don't understand the business problem. Before you build the most fancy models, be it machine learning or deep learning, it's always a good practice to understand data. And the way you do that is using something called as exploratory data analysis. Create different charts. If you have a target variable, if you have features, how do you understand the relationships between them? If you can create some kind of a alluvial diagram or a flow chart in terms of where data is flowing from different categories, you would really understand how data is actually evolving from start to end. So understanding data is a very important concept. And one skill that you shouldn't ever avoid is statistical knowledge. I think behind all the fame and behind all the whole data science boom, one thing that you will have to realize is everything is based on mathematics. Everything is based on statistics. So if you are able to understand maths and statistics really well, you can really survive in this whole data science, job eruption that's happening. And quality data scientists who are really good with fundamental statistical knowledge would always excel in their career. So, and then finally, all the fancy ML stuff that you're really passionate about, like deep learning, the NLP, say the BERT models that are releasing, or the cool GPT-3 stuff that's happening. All of that is also something that you can keep an eye on. But my priorities are, say, curiosity, understanding the business problem, exploring data really well, and having a good fundamental statistical knowledge. Then you can kind of build foundational, once you have interest in one particular field like computer vision, then you can kind of deep dive into that area and then take that forward. So yeah, that is all that I had in today's session. I wanted to give you a sense of how the overall AI ecosystem is evolving and what are the job opportunities that you can expect in machine learning, data science, data analytics, whatever you call it. So yeah, this is all that I had in today's presentation. I am really glad you kind of stayed this long till 8, 8:30, 8:20, guys. So yeah, I'm really happy that you've stuck so far. So yeah, hopefully this session was really informative, and yeah, I mean, hoping to have an in-person interaction with all of you.
Yeah, that was an amazing session, Bhavesh. Like we have learned a lot about data science, AI, and a lot of things. So we have few questions about AI and all the things that you talked about. So, Tashi, would you like to go with the first question?
Okay, so
Okay. So the first question is, what are the resources? How we can start with AI and ML? Basically, if I am a beginner and I want to start with AI ML, so from where to start?
Okay. So when I thought of making a transition, so I come from a software engineering background. I was working with Cisco. I was a software engineer. One fine day, I thought I want to make this transition into data science and machine learning, which is where I picked up a lot of courses online. Coursera is that one resource that you can utilize for beginning your career or starting your data science journey. I think the very famous Introduction to Machine Learning by Andrew Ng is that course which everyone picks up. So that is something that you can pick up. Then you have some really amazing books. So there is Business Statistics by Ken Black. That is that one book that I really followed in terms of, say, clearing my fundamentals in terms of statistics. So we've all learned statistics during engineering or before that as well, but we're not in touch with that, say, complex things which are kind of simple, but p-value, null hypothesis, and the other fancy statistical things that are there. So for all of that, I think it was a really good beginning point. So that is one book that I can recommend. The other resource that I really used extensively was YouTube. So given I started creating content, I was really inspired by a lot of content creators. Back in my time, there weren't a lot of content creators, but I remember referring to Brandon Rohrer. So he used to lead the whole data science initiatives at Facebook. Now he works at iRobot, if I'm not wrong. So I used to refer to his videos, and that's how I started learning data science and machine learning as well. So these are some of the resources that I can recommend.
and thank you so much for answering that. And we have another question like, do we need to know maths for learning AI, like for the algos and everything?
Uh, uh, yes, there's no escaping that. So yeah, I mean, if you're comfortable with mathematics, you may not be say really good at the initial stage, but if you can sit down and if you can clear your mathematics concepts, because anything that you do, all the roles that I've mentioned, be it like a data scientist role or a deep learning engineer role, or if you plan to control robots using say programs, all of that, say one of the field that's kind of evolving is reinforcement learning as well, wherein you are able to understand from the environment where things are going wrong, and the agent is programmed in such a way that he's able to adjust to the environment as well. So all of this would essentially require good understanding of mathematics. So yes, there's no escaping maths. That is something that I can share.
Okay.
And being a
There's one more
non-technical
question.
profile,
Yeah.
okay, being a non-technical profile, can we learn ML?
Yes, you can. There are a lot of people. So I remember teaching at an institute wherein a lot of non-tech guys have also been they've been successful in terms of making a transition into data science and machine learning. So the answer is yes. The only thing that is required is good dedication in terms of understanding mathematics. You need say good hold in terms of programming as well. There are companies. So if you want to make a big jump to companies like Facebook, Uber and Google as well. You will have a grilling coding round. That is something that you cannot avoid, even for a data science role. So if you can pick up yourself and if you can give yourself that time that, hey, I can learn all of these, then your background does not necessarily matter in terms of making a transition. So as long as you are determined, yeah, I mean, you can essentially achieve whatever you've planned. So yeah.
Right. So yeah, one more question. So someone is asking, with all the advancement in AI, so what are your thoughts? Like, will the jobs be vanished when the AI is getting advanced day by day?
Uh, good question, but yeah, I come from an opinion that generally what will happen is a lot of jobs that require you to do the same thing again and again, like a daily level routine job, that would technically be automated. So 5 7 years down the line, you wouldn't have jobs wherein you would do the repetitive stuff every day. But for say like a use case wherein if you have to give out a loan to an end user in near real time, you require complex models to come in and create solutions. So which is where you do require a human in the loop to understand business, and then create solutions according to it. So yes, there are great advances that's basically happening in AI. You have auto ML solutions coming up as well, but technically till the time, again going back to the same problem, or going back to the same point, if you have good amount of business understanding, then business or a human in loop is always required to create that end solution that's there.
Right. And we have
Okay.
one last question. So someone is asking, can you refer some channels on YouTube, because there are a lot of resources available on the internet. So beginners tend to get confused, like where to start.
Got it. So okay. uh, Okay, good question. So technically, YouTube channels are designed in such a way that you don't have like a chronology in terms of what the end, say, creator wants to create. Like my videos, I don't have a structure to it. Whatever I like, whatever I've learned is what I push out on YouTube. Brandon Rohrer, again, if you want to get your deep learning concepts clear. The other YouTuber that I really refer to is Louis Serrano. He creates some really good videos, like 25 30 minute videos. So that is one. There is also, if you want to really understand regression concepts, there is a very old channel. The creator no longer pushes videos on it. It's called Statistics Fun. Statistics for Fun, or there's Stats Quest as well. I cannot miss Stats Quest. So Stats Quest is there. Then there is Statistics for Fun, a very underrated channel. Not a lot of people recommend it, but I have built my statistical foundation using that channel. Then there is also a channel called as Rithvik Math. Again, not a very popular channel. He has good amount of subscribers, but not very famous. He creates some amazing content as well. So yeah, I mean, these are some of the channels that I can recommend. That is something that I follow as well. So yeah, these are some of the channels that I can recommend.
That's
Okay.
amazing. Like,
That's really great. I hope all our queries are answered. And if there are many, then they can just send them on contact at the GDSC WOW. Okay, so your session was really good, and we are really happy to have you here with us.
Thank you
Your
so much.
insights were really wonderful, and like the resources you provided, I think they'll help a lot to all our audience and to us as well, because we are also trying to explore this domain. So thank
right.
you really. The mesmerizing world of AI you brought to us today.
Awesome. I'm
Yeah.
glad I could help.
Thank you so
So
much, Bhavesh.
thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much, Bhavesh. We have learned a lot of new things about AI and ML in this session.
Awesome. Thank you.
And yeah, in the chat, can we have Bhavesh OP and ML OP in the chat, guys? So we have learned a lot of things, lot of
Oh, people
resources.
were
So
already doing
guys,
that.
let's. People are saying Bhavesh OP. So thank you, Bhavesh, sir, for coming and giving us the insights to the world of AI and ML and also data science.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so with this, we are at end of the today's session. This was the last session, and guess what's the time now? Any guesses? Tashi, chats, anyone?
Yeah, it's again the quiz time. Now it's the testing time, testing the audience. Like, were they able to make out the best out of the session? Because I was able to make out the best out of the session.
Right, Tashi. So why don't we start with the quiz then? Shall we?
Yes. So,
Okay. So, folk,
can we
let me
get the
brief you with
quiz
the
link in the
rules.
chat?
Yeah, so the rules are there. There will be 3 minutes given to you. You will have 10 questions. There are no negative markings, so don't worry about that. Make sure you have registered for GDSC WOW, otherwise you won't be eligible.
If you haven't registered, you can just hop on to the website gdscwow.tech/register and you can register yourself. The quiz link is there on the chat as well as on the screen. The time
So the
has
quiz is
already
started,
started.
guys.
All the very best. And how was the session?
So
Did
last
you
quiz, guys.
all?
Give your best. Okay, let's see who will say it done first in the chat. We'll give a shout out to him, Slasher. 2 minutes left. Let's see who will be the first one to complete the quiz. Okay, yes, Srishti Singh MLO. Okay, Rajesh Biswas, Meet Sarvani. You are the first one to complete the quiz. Congratulations, guys.
Come on, guys, we have many rounds. And like those who have completed with the quiz, like, did you like the session? Which session did you like the most? Was it Flutter? Was it Cloud? Was it ML? UI UX? Which session
Yeah,
was the most interesting one?
yeah. My personal favorite was UI UX. I learned a lot about UI UX and especially web, how the AMP works. That was a new thing to me.
Yeah, me too. I never knew that there was a thing like AMPs. I like
Same.
the GIFs too. I like the
Yeah.
UI UX. And then last session
One
was
minute left,
really good.
guys.
Like now I understood what actually happens in the industry, like what they expect. So that was really insightful.
Right,
Okay, so
Tashi.
what's the majority? Oh, like we have a really diverse range.
A lot of people are still busy with the quiz. Guys, 40 seconds left. So, guys, if you have loved the session till now and you have loved all the efforts and all the thing that we have done for all the speakers and GDSC WOW, just go to our social media handles, drop a story, and tag us, and we would love that.
Last 20 seconds. Come on, guys, it's the last opportunity for the day.
Right. Let's have a countdown, Tashi.
So, 5, 4, 3,
Three,
2,
two,
1.
one. And with
Time's
this,
up.
we are ended with the last quiz for the day.
I hope you were all
So,
able to get it.
right. So, folks, as you have understood by the theme that we are going with, first day was about the roadmaps of all the technologies. Today was all about how the future scope is, what are the career opportunities you can go. And that was for the today's session. This was the last session. Thank you all for joining. And do join tomorrow because tomorrow will be the hands-on session for all the technology that you have learned today and also a career development session. So tomorrow is going to be a great day as well.
So, with this, we come to the end of day 2 of WOW. So, can we get some WOWs in the chat?
Yep.
I hope
Let's
you
have
enjoyed.
okay, Aman Negi is saying get set loud, love, wow, wow, wow. Amazing, Aman. Let's have get set wow in the chat, guys. I want to see the chat get float with GetSetWoW. I can only see few people. Asif Khalifa, okay, Mohit MC,
Now we have
Akhilesh.
vows and vows lined
Yep,
up.
let's right. Let's also give a thanks to all the speakers who have given a great opportunity and session and insights to the industry. Let's have GetSetWoW and thanks to all the speakers today.
And don't forget to like the stream. If you have enjoyed it, then do like it and subscribe our channel, and just like you can just place a like for the wonderful speakers we had today, for the wonderful insights they provided. So do like it.
And also, don't forget to follow us on social media, especially Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. And all the winners for all the quizzes, treasure hunt will be announced by end of the day today. So don't forget to check our social medias and also check our website as well.
Yeah. It was a combined effort of all the backend people here, all the members who have worked for this event. So don't forget to like the stream. And with this, adios, folks. We hope to see you all tomorrow with more vigor and enthusiasm. And till then, stay safe and have a really great day ahead.
Yeah, best of luck, guys. May you learn all the things you are trying to learn. Bye bye. And get it wow.
Bye bye.